Hey, I'm trying to live until I die. Come connect, you know it's a lewd state of mind. Yeah, yeah. Talking traveling, if you wanna fly. Fitness and finance, living a better life. Keep it raw, no filter. Living with no limit. Thank you for tuning in. Come on, let's get it.
Good morning, neighbour.
Hello, how are you going?
I'm going well. Welcome to Leeward State of Mind and Leeward Studios.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think about the joint?
It's amazing.
Yeah?
It was not what I thought it was going to be.
No, that's a good thing though.
Yeah, it is a good thing. It just means that I probably underestimated just how far this business has come.
Look, we're trying to get some street cred, and that's the reason why you're here today too, to just increase that value of our stock.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. No, it's just about two people just having a lovely conversation. We've got some buckfast here. We're just gonna have a bit of a chat. Now, Majella is Irish. Is that correct?
Irish Catholic, yes.
Majella Hamilton.
Yes, Scottish too. I'm a bit of a bitzer.
Now, Irish grandparents, great-grandparents?
Yes, on one side. Obviously, there's Scottish involved, considering it's Hamilton. And some Belgian and English.
You're going to say bitzer, right?
It's a bitzer. That's right, it is a bitzer.
Now, you had an awesome story about Hamilton, the name Hamilton.
Yes.
Now, you know I'm a Kiwi.
Well, I did, yes. Your accent gives it away a little bit.
I've still got a little bit of a twang,
do.
don't I? Yeah.
We won't hold that against you.
That's all right. I'm proud of my heritage.
Yeah, so you should be.
I love the place. I just don't want to live there anymore.
It's funny, I always think New Zealand is the place I'll go when I'm older. Like, I want to travel the world and get into really places that are grungy and hard. And when I get older, I'll do the
Have
New
you
Zealand.
done a lot of travel in your years?
I have, yes.
Yeah?
Well, what's a lot? I've still got lots to do, but...
Oh, everybody should have a lot of travelling to do. We're talking about multiple countries. Is there a country that you go back to often because it's a favourite of yours?
I used to work for the British government, and they used to send me pretty much once a year, and that was a very good job because they used to always allow you to have some time off, so even a long weekend. And so I did a lot of travel with friends that were in the UK, so travelling to Iceland and a few places that...
Wow.
Yeah, I once went from Iceland to Australia, back to Melbourne, like in a weekend.
That's a long journey.
Yes, it was a very long journey, but it was worth it.
Iceland's on my bucket list. I've got to take that one off.
It's amazing.
Now, getting back to Hamilton.
Yes,
now,
sorry.
Hamilton is a town in New Zealand.
It
It's
is.
in the North Island.
Yes.
It's a little bit south of Auckland for those people that don't know. Google it. There's a nice map online.
You probably know more about Hamilton than I do.
Well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. They call it Hamiltron is one of the names.
Yep.
It's a funny little town. I don't have a lot of fond memories of it. A lot of travelling through Hamilton and not stopping there.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of reason to stop. I didn't have any family there.
And I think there was a church that that Hamilton actually paid for in, I don't know whether it was Auckland or Wellington, that was impacted by you had, I think, a few years ago
Talking about the earthquake in Christchurch.
Yeah, Christchurch. Sorry, Christchurch.
Yep.
And I think that was impacted, but he actually funded the church, the Catholic church. Oh, no, the Anglican church there.
So you're saying he. Now, he's your great-great-great-grandfather? Is that the story that
I
you
don't know
told
how
me?
many greats it is.
Let
it's
me
three greats.
Let me just get this right. So your ancestry,
Yes.
one man, Mr.
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yeah, trader.
he was a trader from Australia or
No.
from Ireland.
I don't know where he was. Ireland, I think.
Yeah.
Ireland or Scotland.
So he went to New Zealand
Yes.
and he established the town/city of Hamilton.
I don't know whether he established that, but I know Hamilton is called after that.
So
I
it was
don't know
named,
the history. I just know that that's our...
It was named up. Well, Maddie, I'll give you a little bit of a side project while we're having a chat, just about the history of Hamilton in New Zealand. We'll pull it up and we'll see where it all lies. But as I said, we were talking about it this morning. It's like it's a small world, and what a great fun fact.
Yeah, it is a fun fact. And I only know it because they did Ancestry. My uncle and aunt did the Ancestry.com, and they travelled around the world tracking down their ancestors, and some are still in Scotland.
Yep.
But New Zealand was pretty fundamental place for our family in terms of the lineage.
And you laid claim that none of your family were convicts.
I did, yes, on both sides. Is that terrible? It's really funny because working for the British government, when you go, I was looking after South Australia. When you go to Adelaide, they're very colloquial.
Yes.
To a point that they will openly tell you. And I remember I was working for the British government that they were what their lineage was, without even asking.
Yep.
It's quite an interesting part of the country, really.
Well, Adelaide was was designed by the same architect as what Christchurch was. Did you know that?
No, didn't know that.
Another fun fact that we're probably going to have to fact check, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
We'll be doing a lot of fact checking.
They've got a lot of churches, both of them.
That's right.
Well, not Christchurch anymore because it fell over in the earthquake, unfortunately.
Well, that's right.
What do we got there? So the settlement was named by Colonel William Mule after Captain Joe Fane Charles Hamilton, the commander of HMS Esk, who was killed in the Battle of Gate Pa in Tauranga. So on March 10, there we go, 2013, a statue of Captain Hamilton. So Captain Hamilton was obviously a captain in the army. Are you reading forward? Is there any other fun facts in there that I'm not picking up? I just see about the statue. Oh, and of course they want to remove the statue because it doesn't associates with colonialism.
Of course it does.
And racism. Doesn't everything these days?
Yes.
Fucking woke people. Seriously.
Can you look up, Maddie, if he was a Anglican, just to make sure that we've got the right one?
The name's correct?
All I know is Hamilton in the ancestry he was a very wealthy man. And they were Anglican, and he came out first, went to New Zealand, and then when he had set himself up, he sent his son out. But his son's got married on the boat to a Catholic and got shipwrecked to Australia. And because he married a Catholic, he was never spoken to again.
So that's the son that married Laura. But he got shipwrecked. So he never made...
So my lineage, he got shipwrecked into Australia, and that's how they ended up in Australia.
Oh, right. Not shipwrecked on the way to New Zealand.
So it was on the way to New Zealand from England.
Okay.
And so remember, these are really long voyage.
I know.
And he met a female and married, but it also got shipwrecked off Australia. So that's how they landed in Australia. And then the son was going to go on to New Zealand, and the father said, no, basically.
Don't come.
Don't come.
We don't want your kind here.
No, you've married someone.
Yeah, stay in Australia with all the other convicts.
Nothing wrong with that. It's a great country.
Isn't it? The backbone of Australia, a convict colony. Well, as Maddie was saying earlier, a lot of them were nicked for just stealing bread to feed their family.
That's right.
That's how bad it was, you know. And then you've got James Squire, who was nicking stuff to make beer. I mean, he's probably one of the smarter ones, when he out of all of those. So it's like a bit
desperate
of
people do desperate things, and he comes out with some amazing results.
It is good. It is good. It's like the number 8 wire theory with New Zealand. You know, you can make anything happen with a piece of number 8 wire. So that ingenuity and that Kiwi ingenuity, which is
Australia and New Zealand are known for it.
Yes, exactly, world famous,
Yeah.
world famous. Now I want to talk about drugs.
What kind?
I don't know. What do you got?
A Panadol on me at the moment.
Now you're involved in clinical trials for drugs. You're associated with the process. Am I correct? Of getting drugs.
Yeah, so I work for a contract research organisation that brings attracts clinical trials from overseas into Australia. And Australia is a good environment because we have a government regulation that provides extra support for those companies, but we also our speed and quality to get the clinical trial started, and our diverse population. So a third of the population in Australia is actually their English is not their first language.
Yep.
So we have a really great diversity in our population.
Well, my question to you first up is, why are companies using you in Australia to do these clinical trials as opposed to anywhere else in the world?
Yeah, so there's a real big process to get to first in human for a drug to actually be trialled into a human for the first time.
Sorry, I'll just hold you there. I think, Maddie, we've got a bit of a graph on that, which will help us or help help our listeners
It
and our
takes
viewers.
20 years.
Yes,
at least.
Yeah, it's not a short process, is it?
No, and just to get to that drug into a human for the first time, you're looking at so much work, so much cost. And as we know, time is money.
Yes.
And Australia has a really great system to allow that drug to be into humans a little bit quicker if they've done all the work. They've got to do all the work. So it's basically a 3-month process as opposed to Europe, which could be over 12 months, and the US could be even more.
Why the difference?
The difference is just different regulations. So different regulations and different application, but also bureaucracy.
So
a lot of it is bureaucracy. Like Australia has basically decided
just cut the red tape.
They've cut the red tape and they made it more efficient. They've made hospitals talk to each other and say, look, if you're a lead site and you get approval, then all the other sites can follow on from that.
Okay.
So it makes it a hell of a lot easier in terms of contracting. So the speed to get, so it's not that we're cutting corners at all, and we don't, but it's the red tape in order. So you still need the same data, the same information. It's just the review and to get it set up and started is a lot quicker.
Okay, well, let's have a look at this chart that we've got up here. It's a clinical trial process. You said it was up to 20 years. We've got 5 to 15 years. So we've got preclinical. So that's exploring if and how a new drug may work. And then we start phase 1. So phase 1 to phase 3 is the important part. Is that correct?
It's the part that our company look into. And Australia is known for phase 1 and phase 2, so early phase. Because a lot of the time they don't, like phase 1 is only a handful of people. It might be under 100, depending on the drug and what they're looking to do. And we can facilitate that diversity. When you get into phase 3, it's a lot bigger population pool.
So just for our listeners and our viewers, so phase 1 is when it's introduced to humans.
It's the first time it's introduced to humans, and it's only looking at toxicology and
so
efficacy.
how the body reacts to it. So a
lot of the phase 1. I mean, there's 2 different types, if you like. Phase 1 could be in healthies, so healthy subjects.
Yes.
That have all they're doing is that they're administering that drug to them as healthy, and they're just testing to see what's happening in the body.
Right.
And before they've even got to that, most of the time, or if not all of the time, they have already done animal testing.
Right.
Multiple animal testing.
I'll just stop you right there for a minute. Sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
So see how you got that. Now this is a FDA is, for your viewers, is the US.
Yes, I was going to explain that to them.
The equivalent is the TGA.
TGA is
in Australia.
Yep.
EMA in Europe. So every country has a health regulatory body. For Australia, it's the TGA.
Okay. Is it easier for the TGA to approve something than the FDA? Or is it completely the same process with presumably the same outcome?
It's similar processes, but remember our market size. So a lot of companies want the US is a bigger market, way bigger market. So when we get companies going phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like they actually are coming to Australia because their market isn't Australia necessarily. Their market is actually the EU or the US. And
it's just to get the process done more efficiently and quickly. Is that correct?
Yes, and also our quality of data. So the data is the asset. So every clinical trial, what they're doing is they're getting the data, and the data proves that there's something happening or that there's a positive result. And so with with this, it's basically in stages.
Yeah, okay, so let's just explain that again. So phase 1 is so it's exploring the safety and the dosing of the drug. And as you said,
Efficacy,
that can be in healthy people and or non-healthy people?
So,
or is it predominantly in healthy people?
So it depends on the therapeutic area and depends on the drug, but in neurology and oncology, phase 1 might be terminally ill patients.
Right.
And
Makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Doesn't it? Phase 2, so exploring the effectiveness of the drug?
Yep. So a lot of the time then it goes into trialing between having a placebo or standard of care plus the drug and comparing if it improves.
Okay, for people listening, a placebo could be just
could
sugar.
be Panadol
Could be
or
Panadol.
sugar.
Yeah, sugar.
It's
That's
probably
how
more
it works.
sugar.
Yeah.
So you don't know, and the staff don't know whether you're having
And just
sugar
on
or not.
just on that, for our listeners' point of view, the placebo effect is a thing unto itself. My doctor recently had a chat to me about something that I was doing, and he said to me whether it's actually. He explained that what I was doing may not effectively be making a change chemically or biochemically, or it was only really in my head. So that's how the process works with placebo, is that you think you're getting something and your mind thinks that you're getting something, and your body can react in a way that thinks you're getting something that's beneficial to you, when in fact it's not. So can you elaborate on the placebo effect better than what I've just tried to explain?
No, that's pretty. It is an amazing, amazing thing, and people say, "Oh, we don't believe in it," but it's almost hope that you think that you're doing something. It's a bit like taking some of the vitamins, and or getting up and going and doing something routinely and swearing that it works.
Yes.
Because you think it works, and you think yourself that it will work, and it might. Your body is an amazing organism. And so we spoke about the drugs that I take, and at one point they were trying to just give me fish oil, and are you feeling any better with fish oil? Not really. And like, well, some people do.
Yeah,
Some people do, and so they will swear by it.
But it could be a case where a patient has got to their wits' end and nothing's working, and for some reason they're convinced that what they are taking, for instance, fish oil, is beneficial for them. Is beneficial for them. So in that instance, the placebo effect is a good and a bad thing, all in the same little package. Would you agree that? But
it's definitely like you hear people swear by things that other people take, and it doesn't have any effect on them. And everybody is different, but your ability for your mind to change the way you function is unbelievable, and they still don't understand that. And I can tell, like, from my own experience, because I do have a mental illness, and I have been clinically diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. Your mind is an amazing function.
Well, a prime example of that, which is something I've experienced recently, is a panic attack. A panic attack starts up here.
Yeah.
And it affects
everything.
Yeah. And it's fucking amazing and scary all at the same time.
Yeah.
And to understand what a panic attack, or how a panic attack works, is to understand how to control it.
Correct.
I had a panic attack on the phone when you rang me the other night.
Did you? Sorry.
No, it wasn't anything you did. It was completely random, and that's why I had to call you back, because my chest started to tighten up. I fucking hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I know it's just a physiological reaction to what's going on in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe I had too much on my mind. Maybe I was just stressed out about something unrelated. But it floods over you, and it's scary, and if you don't know how to control it, it can be fucking overwhelming.
Well, it can be all-consuming.
I know.
It can ruin your life.
Oh, and for those people that are stricken with it and they can't manage it, you've got to feel for them because, I mean, society and life is fucking hard enough as it is without having something like that on top of that.
Yeah, at least you did self-care. You knew it was coming and you didn't make it any worse. And I think that's for those that have never had a panic attack and don't understand it. It can come over at any time for any reason.
Well, I've talked to some friends and they had a panic attack while they were driving, towing a caravan, and they had no idea what was happening.
And what to do too, if it's your first time.
Exactly.
Because some of the times I find with my panic attacks, and I'm much more controlled now because I've learned how to work out the signs and to back off. So don't get myself to the point where I can't breathe and I'm basically put myself in a corner and shut myself down.
Yeah. Well, you've almost got to do a factory reset, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but you've got to back off too.
Yeah.
Like you've just got to back off.
Well, see, that's the thing is if you overthink it, it just adds fuel to the fire and will just exacerbate all that.
And sometimes if you're in an environment like with other people, they might want to come and help. And actually, that's the worst thing you can do sometimes to a person because
you just got to remove yourself.
You've
from
got
the
to actually remove yourself from the situation. And some people, and I've had this situation where I used to have panic attacks, basically going into functions or even if it was like friends and family, like I would really, and you got to learn about your body and learn about just what you need to do to get yourself back, sort of more in line or back in check.
Yeah.
But it's all about self-care and it's also about just knowing the signs of the build-up. So, and that's the thing, like it's almost putting your life on hold for a minute, like or not on hold, but just giving yourself that self-care and saying, I need to look after myself first and I need to remove myself from this situation, whatever it is, until I'm able to cope.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big advocate for that. And that can lead to being called selfish or ignorant or arrogant. But I always say, look after number one first before, it's like, anyway.
It's hard though, because if you've got an illness, and for me, I'm known to not say no and be very, very generous with my time, and I'm very family orientated and very loyal to my friends and family, and it's that expectation when you get sick or someone gets sick, you've got to change in order to heal yourself.
Yes.
And people around you don't necessarily want you to. They want you back to what you were pre-injury.
Yep.
And sometimes that's just never going to happen.
Well, I think
it can't happen.
I think in life everybody has to evolve, and that's part of your journey in life.
Yes.
Hey, look, the PTSD thing.
Yes.
We're going to get back to that because I want to really get stuck into that. Yep. Let's get back to this clinical trial thing. So we're talking about the placebo effect.
Yep. So normally when you get up to stage 2 and stage 3, what they're doing is they're just trying to see whether that molecule and that particular drug is going to be better than what's on the market and doing what it's meant to do. And there's the side effects, because remember, you hear all these stories about people taking drugs that are approved and there's side effects.
Doesn't every drug have a side effect?
Not necessarily, but it can happen. And this is what it's like anything. Action makes a reaction. That's the basis of science. So you put anything.
That's another one of my sayings.
Exactly. So if you put something different into your body,
yes,
of course there's going to be a reaction. That's what you want. But there could be good and bad.
Yep.
And some things you might not feel, but I will feel, and vice versa, because our bodies are different. So we talk about chemotherapy and we talk about those oncology drugs, and people are like, oh, the reactions are, there's so many adverse issues. But you've got to weigh that up to the benefits sometimes.
Of course. Of course. I mean, and that itself, with regards to healthcare, and especially with cancer, is another completely different topic that would, there's a lot to cover in that.
Yeah.
My question to you is, you talked about us being different.
Yeah.
You're a female, I'm a male. Does that reflect in results in the trial phase?
It can. And this is the thing, women's health is probably behind in a lot of ways, because a lot of there needs to be more work in how, especially in our reproductive systems, and our hormones are all different to men. So a lot of these now is 50-50. Generally, they like a 50-50 mix, and they like across the board demographic.
Okay, so specific.
So an Asian will be different to a Caucasian is a different to Hispanic.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, they need to test multiple ethnicities to make sure that they're covering.
That's interesting. I thought immediately male, female.
No, it's not just that. And also, if you then move on, and you also like the age of a person. So from pediatrics to adolescents to adults to geriatric sort of elderly, it's very different in how the body works.
The scope is fucking huge, isn't it?
And that's why you say 5 to 15 years. That's I would say it's almost 20 plus years. And remember, most of these drugs, a third of them, if not more, fail.
A third.
Or if not more, fail.
Okay. And generally, where do they fail? Which stage?
Well, you want to fail early.
That's
right.
What saves? It's a lot cheaper, isn't it?
Fail early.
Yeah, it's a lot of cheap.
Well, because you look at a phase 1, so a simple phase 1, and this is Australia, it's over $1 million. Well over $1 million.
That's for the process to to go through phase 1.
And that is a simple phase 1.
Yep.
Right? So we're talking about millions and millions of dollars here. Even just to get like from preclinical, there's millions and millions of dollars just to get to that stage.
Okay, so let's get back to where we were. So phase 2 was exploring the effectiveness. So phase 3 is exploring the safety and effectiveness compared to currently available treatments.
Yeah.
So that's the last stage.
That is the last stage. And, you know, if companies are getting into phase 3, like they've got something.
They're 10 to 15 years down the track.
Yeah.
And they've spent millions and millions.
Millions and millions of dollars.
That's a direct correlation to the price of pharmaceuticals once they go to market. Is how much money? I understand.
That's what people don't understand. Like,
I understand companies have to make money. That's fine. What I don't agree with is pharmaceutical companies making absurd profits on technically supplying a healthcare solution to the population.
But that solution could have been 100 solutions at the start. So
please explain.
So, you know, you might have a biotech company, and there's quite a few great Australian biotech companies that are, and we are growing our biotech community, and it's fantastic, and medtech community. We've got a great community for both. So medical device and biologics, if you like. So but you know, you've got companies that might have a pipeline of drugs, and they might have a lead drug that they say through the testing of this is showing the most promise out of all of our little molecules that we've got. So we're going to use that one because it's so expensive even to get into phase 1. We want to make sure that we're a sure thing. Now, the other thing to note is that you get a drug, a molecule, and you might say, right, this molecule is going to be for a certain therapeutic area, but it might be actually able to be used for other areas.
Which is what we're finding now with a lot of drugs that have been around for a long, long time.
Correct. It's a bit like what I take.
Ozempic and stuff like that.
Well, even dexamphetamine.
Yes.
So I take dexamphetamine, but it's not necessarily, I mean, it's approved now, but it would have had to go through multiple different drugs, multiple different therapeutic areas, because you can't use a drug for another area unless it's been approved.
Okay, so part of that testing process is that the drug is tested specifically to do one job.
One job.
Not a coverall. So if I say I've got this wonder drug that's going to cover off this, and this.
You got to prove it.
You got to prove it.
Yeah. You might not have to go back. If it's the same drug with the same compound, same formula, you might not have to go through the early phases, but you certainly have to go through the later phases.
Right, I've got a question for you.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Panadol.
Yes.
Panadol comes now in so many different formats.
Yeah.
This may be
it's also generic too.
So you've got Panadol, you've got Panadol Rapid, you've got Panadol Back, and I don't understand how this same drug Panadol can be marketed specifically to target back pain when really that's exactly what it does. It just covers pain. Is that correct? Is that so? Panadol's designed to relieve pain.
Yeah.
Doesn't and it can't. This particular drug can't.
Remember,
can't
it's also off patent too.
and it can't. But it can't pinpoint a. So my question to you is: can a drug specifically target a point in your body? It can.
It can.
It
Yes.
can.
Yes.
But Panadol's a coverall. Panadol's just a generic
But
painkiller.
they can't. So Nurofen, but they can't claim that unless they can prove it. So they would have had to do tests to prove.
to put that little picture on the
Correct.
box that's got a guy.
They're not
holding
allowed
his
to,
back like
the
this.
regulator will not allow them to do that unless they can prove that happens.
Well, which is fair enough because you
So-
don't want to mislead the general public, But it just
Also, we should be talking. The reason why these drugs are so expensive at the start is because they're still under patent.
yes. So
Right.
every company is going to patent
Yeah.
their drug.
And when it's out of patent, it's a free for all. You have generics and you have like other companies coming in and
Can you explain the patent system?
well,
so
it's
I've got a
basically
drug.
protecting. So it might take a lifetime. Every researcher would dream of finding and developing a molecule that helps save lives or improves the lives of others. I mean, that's why they're in the business for.
You'd want to hope so.
Well, no, hand on heart, that's why I like the community, because generally everybody working in this sector,
They want to do good.
they want to do good.
Yep.
Right? They don't go very far if they don't. And I know that we bag the pharmaceutical guys, but in the end of the day, they do want to see an outcome. But they also need to keep their shareholders happy.
Of course.
And the thing is that, once they've got to protect that molecule, they've got to just protect that discovery.
So you're saying it comes down to specifically one molecule.
It can, yeah.
And
One chemical compound. It could become a gene manipulation. We're now doing gene therapy, or cell therapy. So so it can come down to, we're talking about very, very, very micro
Yep.
elements.
So they're patenting that, basically saying, this is my design. And you're saying that does a patent not last forever?
No, it
Because you said-
expires.
okay, so you can't renew it after it expires. Is that? and are
I'm
we
not.
talking-
I'm not
is it different?
legally. I'm not legally.
Is it
up
different?
to that, but I just know that it has an expiry date.
Is it different between Australia and New Zealand? Maddie, can you check that out? for us,
So
please?
no, we've got to protect it each country,
Right.
right?
So basically you gotta cover the world with
when
a
you
patent.
talk to so and it's expensive. Like it's really, really expensive to do.
Oh, Steph knows all this, doesn't she? Yeah. Steph, the intellectual property lawyer. isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she would definitely know all this.
Yes. Yeah, we've had discussions.
So people think that why is it so expensive? And it's like, well, because it's cost. A treatment has cost to get to the end result. It's cost a lot of money.
So are you validating, because of the process, the cost of the end product? I mean, when you think about it, if somebody spent a lot of money developing something, it takes a certain amount of that product at a certain price to recoup your initial costs. And then it's about making profit for the shareholders.
Yeah, but it's also about, developing, sometimes like you look at CAR-T, it's really, 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 really expensive. They haven't simplified the manufacturing, like it's still coming. So actually, even at the end, the cost for one patient is in the millions of dollars. So, and that's just because the technology and the processes, they haven't simplified it, they haven't automated it, they haven't got to that point yet. And it will improve, the cost will come down. But
Yep.
sometimes, as you know, new technology, new systems, it can be clunky and quite expensive to run.
It just seems from a patient's point of view, if something could save their lives, in a lot of cases they can't afford what's required to have that medication to save their lives, and that's prevalent in cancer patients,
Yeah.
oncology.
Yeah, but you know what? In this country, we're so lucky that we have an industry that has key opinion leaders and researchers that are world class, and that attracts clinical trials into this country, and that allows those patients that would otherwise not get anything after they're deemed ill.
Yep.
They actually have hope that they might actually be able to join a clinical trial, and it may not work, but they're actually advancing that disease to find a cure.
Well, as you said, a clinical trial can be the last hope.
And
For-
for some people,
Yep.
it is. It is
Yep.
the last hope.
And sometimes it can be false hope, which is not a good thing also. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no, because I think if they're having a clinical trial, it has gone through an awful lot of testing before it gets into them.
Okay, at that stage,
So it's been through animals. It's actually been like, we're not just talking about a lab tube sort of thing. It has got
Yep.
lots of testing preclinical, and we're talking about samples and lab testing and data before it actually even gets into their system.
but the downside to that is that if they're in a clinical trial, they could be given a placebo. Is that correct?
They could, but a lot of companies now will offer the patients at the end who would like, if they've been given a placebo, because they'll find out at the end, they are actually offering, if the drug is going to continue on, for them to take the drug. So in a lot of ways, yes, while they're in that trial, if you like, they miss out, but they don't know that then. And then at the end, they will be offered, if
Okay.
it's looks like it's
seems-
working. They do. A lot of companies now will provide that opportunity for those patients or subjects to be actually provided that drug.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
That is
so
good to know. It's shitty that
It's
you've got
ethical for them to. It's ethical for the biotech company, because there's nothing worse if you think about it. If you and I go on a clinical trial and I've got the placebo and you have the drug, and it actually makes a world of difference for you. It's nice to know that I've committed to the clinical trial, and I've gone and done exactly the same as you have. It's nice to be offered that opportunity, and it may, everybody's different, so it may not work. It may not be as effective as what it is for you, but at least it's being offered.
Getting back to that effectiveness, we're talking about male, female. Are there drugs specifically that would go through a trial specifically for male and or female?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's also trials that will just be for Japanese patients.
Wow.
100% Japanese patients, or 100% one ethnicity.
Have you got companies that are bringing, like say, Japanese companies and American
Yep,
companies
yep.
all coming
Yep,
to Australia
yep.
to use the
That's right.
services?
So there are clinical sites in Australia that will offer that service,
That's amazing.
where they
Just-
will bring in dietary food for that.
Can you specifically, well, not specifically. So say we're targeting Japanese.
Yeah, so they
So
will.
a drug. What can you give us an idea on maybe what type of, whether it's a
I
cancer
don't.
drug or
It might be a nutritional drug. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But the ones I'm thinking of are first in human, but they will bring in dietary requirements. So sometimes it's a dietary where they will actually have the subjects eat certain things as part of the trial.
Yep. To see the correlation between, so that means the drug is working on the digestion system.
Yeah, it just depends on where the therapeutic area is, but that's the they do that, and Australia can facilitate that because of our demographic.
Of course.
So
So there's no shortage of people taking up positions in these trials.
no,
No.
and if you go to the 7 News or the normal Channel 9 or Channel 2, the local news, you will see during the news sort of adverts for clinical trials. Breaking news, there's there's this new outcome or successful, or so there is a lot of advertisement. And
Is it easy to be part of a trial? Is it as simple as going online and applying?
so if it's a healthy subject, if you're and you meet the criteria, yes.
Because as you say, a lot of these drugs specific certain age groups, don't they? So obviously you've got PDFs, you've got stuff for young children.
But the other thing is that we have in this country, we have a health system that's a little bit unique because we have clinicians that work in public hospitals as well as having their private. And so they will become aware of, if they're specialists in that area, they'll be aware of the clinical trials that are coming in to the country, and they might even be part of that, of managing that or that clinical trial, and they will bring their client, their patients in,
yes,
if they fit that criteria.
Okay, so they're looking out for their patients.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Well, this is another element, isn't it? This is another way of potentially giving a patient an opportunity to improve their situation.
Can you give me an idea of how many trials and how many drugs are happening on an ongoing basis? Are we talking thousands?
Yeah.
Or is it not as big as what we think?
Oh no, it's in Australia, I can't remember the latest, but it's about 3,000 clinical trials that have started every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
And that's happening year on year on year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
but remember, there's companies like us that are going out to market, to major conferences and talking to biotechs and pharma and talking about the opportunities and why Australia, not America. And, you have American companies that will come specifically to Australia because to get to that FDA review, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of time, a lot of bureaucracy. So they actually can use the Australian data. So they can do the first in human phase 1 in Australia, and then they can use that data for that FDA meeting.
Well, it's cheaper for Americans to do that. It just makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
We have an exchange rate, but we also have a regulatory system where R&D tax credits in this country allows them to do clinical research and development, so research and development in this country, and get cash back for it. And
what a deal!
It can be your company, and it can be yes.
Yeah, it just makes perfect sense.
But really, I mean, that's a bonus. I always say anything like any government, any foreign direct investment that you do, what the government offers is always a bonus. You should be going for why you go, and you come to Australia because of the process, but the quality of data and the quality of the actual administration of their clinical trial.
So is this costing the taxpayers?
Well, it does for the R&D tax component, I guess, but then you got to weigh out the benefits of being provided an opportunity to go on a life-saving trial. How do you benefit that? And also what you're doing is you're creating innovation and development into this country.
Oh, which is
growing.
Great, which is great for our economy, great
exactly.
for everybody.
So you are actually retaining your key opinion leaders, and they're world class.
So you're retaining a lot of
and growing infrastructure here. So the Victorian government has spent 20 years developing an ecosystem to be world class, to be equivalent to Boston. So
you're saying the Victorian government's actually done something
Yeah,
good.
it has. If you look at Parkville, I mean, we've got the biggest pharmaceutical company in Australia, CSL. It's at the start of Parkville, and you walk up, you've got Melbourne University, you've got Florida, you've got Weehai, you've got the Children's Hospital, which is Murdoch in their institute in there. You've got all these facilities, like world-class facilities. And then you go to Monash, which has just had the heart hospital established.
Yep.
And you've got you've got state-of-the-art facilities in Victoria. And then if you look at Australia, you know, what they're doing in New South Wales and Queensland and WA and South Australia, there's state-of-the-art facilities that companies can come here and do what they need to do cost effectively, but also the quality. They're not minimising the quality. And that's ultimately important, because when you're spending millions and millions of dollars and at the end of the day, your asset is your data.
Yes.
If you get crap data, it's worthless.
Yep. Well, it's the same with Google, isn't it? They want good data so they can sell more advertising.
Yeah.
It's all about the end product. Thanks for listening to our latest episode of Leeward's State of Mind. Don't forget to head to our website, leewardstateofmind.com, for all our previous podcast episodes and, of course, our famous merch. We've just released a new range of merchandise and there's something for everyone. So head to leewardstateofmind.com and buy something today. All right, talk to me about Oxy. OxyContin
Yes.
was actually...
Very highly addictive.
Yes, well, there's a bit of a scourge around the world with regards to opioid addiction. There's a really great Netflix movie called Painkiller, which is... Have you seen Painkiller?
I actually haven't yet.
It's great. It's good. So Richard Sackler, does that name ring a bell? So the Sackler
I know,
family?
yes.
So you know the story about OxyContin?
Yes.
$35 billion in revenue from Oxy, and it continues. Obviously, the painting is finished from memory.
Yeah.
With them and Oxy. OxyContin, I was doing some research on this morning. So the contin part is actually the release, the time release of the drug. And we were talking while we're having a break there with regards to some drugs that are taken. You have to take them 2 or 3 times a day because they get to would you say a half-life?
Half-life. You've got a half-life. So that's
so if
part
you've got, say for instance, you're taking an antibiotic.
Yep.
And they say, 2 or 3 times a day, no alcohol. When a drug company says don't drink, are they just trying to take the fun away from us?
No, they're actually saying don't drink.
It's specifically going to cause further damage.
Oh, it just doesn't. It impacts the effects that you want from that drug.
Right.
Or can. No, remember, we're different ecosystems, we're different bodies, so different people will relate. But some drugs particularly can have some nasty side effects with other drugs and including alcohol.
Okay, well, part of going back to that clinical trial stage, do they evaluate how their drug can affect other drugs when it's in the system at the same time? Say, for instance, as you say, like say something that's for pain, and then you've got something else that could be for acid reflux or something. Do the trials specifically go through these scenarios where if our drug that we're trying to get approved goes with another drug that's existing, we get X result, which could be bad or it could be beneficial? Yeah,
they certainly can, especially on the later stages of the phases.
So it is part of the process?
It is part, absolutely. It has to be. And that's why, they're constantly, the later stages comparing and working out exactly how this impacts with other drugs. Because let's be honest, like most of us are on several.
How many are you on?
4.
You're on 4 individual. So
4.
So let's
4.
Let's get back to what we brushed over earlier, which was PTSD.
Yes.
PTSD, post-traumatic stress
disorder,
is generally associated with people that come back from war, army personnel.
That was the
male,
original.
female.
That was the original part of the diagnosis.
That's where it was born.
Was born, yes, and then they realised actually it's a little bit more prevalent in the general population. I think sometimes it's gone to the other extreme where you have people commenting, "Oh, I've just had a post-traumatic or PSD moment."
Yeah, so they blow
and
it
I'm
off.
like,
really? Did you?
Yeah. Do you know what you're actually saying by saying that? I don't actually go into it because, it's now a saying. It's like a term. Oh.
Okay, well, talk to me about you and PTSD.
So I was working at a small organisation, and
in Australia,
and the organisation was in OH&S education.
This is pivotal to the.
It is because it's kind of a bit of ironic, really.
As we'll find out.
So I was working to grow in business development, but I was sort of the operations, if you like. So I was looking after the sales team, but also the admin team. It is, and it's a requirement for work cover insurance, company insurance. So you would have to do, I assume, something for your employees.
Correct. Yep.
If you have them.
No, I don't. Thank God. I saw Maddie. I just blew you off, mate. I'm sorry. Matty's he's not an employee. He's a part owner. Yeah, there you go. I've just elevated your status. It's got a thumbs up.
Ask for a pay rise.
If you're not making any money, you can't ask for more money.
No, well, that's exactly right.
I asked my wife the other day, could I call myself a non-profit? And she goes, no, you can't.
No.
you just can't. I go, shit. Okay.
For profit. That's what we want. It's like if you pay tax, there's a reason why you're paying tax. You're going, well.
You're making money, exactly. That's what I've always said.
Yeah.
But let's just touch on Lured for a start. No, we're not making any money. The podcast doesn't make any money. We do have sponsors. We've got Buckfast from Chapel Street Cellars. There's no money exchanged. This is all love. This is all from the heart. I'm just trying to give back to the community in the way that, because I don't like people. Yeah, did you know that?
No.
No, I hate them. I just detest them, and I avoid them on a regular basis, which is my shit I've got to deal with. But I've as a lot of people do, they create their own environment to suit their lifestyle. Enough about me.
Back to me. So I was working and I'd got this job because I'd had a issue with another employee and I was unemployed and I was actually looking to do my PhD in international business, which was kind of my passion and my career. And
how long ago? When are we talking?
So we're talking about 10 years ago. Or no, it's 9.5 years ago.
Yep.
So 10 years ago when I joined this company.
Yes.
And as part of wasn't looking for a job. I was kind of going to businesses that I'd helped internationalise and grow their companies offshore. And I just wanted to get their take on what I was looking to do, because I'd had a professor at RMIT and La Trobe come to me and say, yep, we'd love, like to do this type of research. So I was just trying to go back to commercial and say, is this something that is of benefit, would be the type of research that we were looking to do. And through those conversations, I got offered a job, and I got offered that I could start 5 days a week, but after 6 months, I could go back to four days a week and do a day of my PhD, start my PhD,
Studies, yep.
Which is great.
Perfect.
And I was working with someone that I really thought the most of, and that was probably part of the problem. I put him up on a pedestal because he had helped me understand internationalisation. He had an international company. I had got him to speak on several occasions. So I really thought a lot of this person and a lot of this business, because it was helping the community, it was helping businesses, is what he was doing. So I started working for him. The first day he sacked my sort of half boss on a Monday morning. And I thought, that's a bit weird. Why would you sack someone? They've come in on Monday morning and you let them go.
That's fucking brutal.
It was a brutal business.
Yep.
It was a very
Sounds
brutal
like
business. And so I was 4 months in, and they had this person working in the business that probably shouldn't have been working. He was never able to control his temper. And he really was a bully. And he bullied a lot of the sales staff, and he was quite aggressive. So the business originally was a transactional business.
Was he short? Was he a short man?
Unfortunately not.
Oh.
He was 6'5".
So it wasn't short man disease, for sure.
Overweight man. So he was probably double my height, double my size. And he had alcoholic issues. He had a lot of issues, but he had a temper issue, alcoholic issues. Anyway, so he was part of the staff, and I had a few interactions with me, but at the time, but I didn't actually think that it was anything different.
Be of concern, nothing to be concerned, no?
It was concerning, but I was told that that's the technology system, like the technology sector. And, a lot of men are a bit more bolstery and stuff. And because we'd gone from a transactional business to a relationship business, we were transitioning the business from transaction, we were selling videos. So it's very quick. And, once you got your video, you might come back to that client in 5 years' time for a new release or whatever. But now we were doing a platform where the client had a yearly subscription. Yes. So there's client management. So it's a different sales cycle and a different way of managing the client. So the old school aggressive flogging doesn't work in a subscription model. because you're trying to build a relationship up.
It doesn't fly anywhere these days, does it? Or is it still prevalent?
I think it still happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it still happens. Anyway, so he somehow got my mobile phone and he would text me, and I didn't think much of it. But when he started to meet me at the train station and just be there, at the time I was uncomfortable, but I'm like, it's a free country.
Yeah.
You know, I can't,
But still,
he's just
alarm
there.
bell, red flags.
No. Well,
No red flags?
Well, there was. My gut, I just ignored my gut, I think. And that's probably the whole story. Don't ignore your gut.
No.
But at the time, I just thought it was a free country. He wasn't doing anything. Sometimes he would smoke at the train station, which I was uncomfortable for because you're not meant to be smoking it. You know, that's when all the regulations. But it was sort of like, oh, well, what can I do? We're out of work. He just happens to be there waiting for me. Oh, well, I won't, I'm still new at the job. I'm only 4 months in and I'm managing him. Anyway, so he and his son went overseas and I was in charge. I was in charge of about 12 people. So there were 6 sales staff and there was 4 sort of admins sort of doing all the invoicing. And then we had 2 IT people in the background, which were quite young guys. And we were running it and we had problems with him just before he left and we were trying to get him into rehab. So again, while we were part of his personal life, but anyway, and it just didn't happen. We couldn't get him into rehab. So
This is the father, the boss.
This was the employee.
Oh, the employee, the stalker.
So the boss was trying to get the employee into rehab before he was to go overseas.
Yeah, didn't happen.
For a week, and it didn't happen. So we were told basically if this person was in the afternoon, if he was starting to get agitated, tell him to leave.
Yep. Just get the fuck out.
Just tell him to leave because once he gets out of control, he's a danger to himself and to other people. So that's why I say he should never been in an office environment, full stop.
I was going to say, this day and age, I don't see how that shit would fly because there'd be alarm bells and stuff would be running straight to HR.
This is a small business.
Yeah, but did they have HR back then in your business or not?
No, the wife was the HR person.
Of course, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not really, no. And I was doing a lot of the HR stuff. I was doing a lot of the management of bullying and, moving him. I had to move him from one side of the office all the way to the other to sit basically next to the boss.
Fuck, it's like herding cats, isn't it?
It was really, yeah. And I guess in hindsight, because it was such I was very much thinking this is an amazing opportunity. I get to do international business. I get to be still in the technology and grow this business internationally because that was part of my role.
Yep.
This sort of stuff I can get through.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but
You were trying to be resilient.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so the boss went overseas and by Monday afternoon, he was talking to a person that he was told not to, a company that he was told not to, and I didn't know who he was talking to, and he wanted to do this deal. And I said to him, and he was on the phone with his client, and I said, can you just put it in writing? I don't want to say yes or no. I don't know who you're talking to. And the deal was cutting nearly 50% off what the product should cost.
It was a bad deal.
It was a bad deal. And so I just said, send it to me in writing. And then I asked who it was. And when he told me, I said, please finish the conversation.
Yeah.
We need to talk about this.
You know the rules.
I didn't know that because he was still on the phone to
to
a client. But,
to him, he fucking knew the rules.
Yeah, and I kept going to the technology guys because I was actually doing something else. So he had sort of stopped me on the way to doing something when he asked. So that's why I wasn't going to say yes or no either because the rules are also if you're going to do a deal, put it in writing so it gets approved so that we all know what's happening. Anyway, I came back from the technology past his desk and he went nuts at me. Verbally abused me in front of everybody and then stormed off. And the technology guys were so upset that I ended up calling everybody in. And I actually had a general manager of sales as well. So I wasn't, although I was managing, but I did have someone and she was quite concerned too. But so we just pulled all the staff in and I just, spoke that it was unacceptable and that we would be dealing with that behaviour. That if anyone wanted to talk about it, I'm very happy to go through, because some of them had never heard someone be
never
so
witnessed it
aggressive
before, really. Well, it
to
can
a
be-
female and to, to a worker, to a manager
Yeah,
side of things.
it's confronting.
And when you hear it, some of these guys are really young, like this was their first job out of uni, like it can be quite shocking.
Yep.
So we kind of called this, and then I had to go in damage control because I realised that I called the company, and I find out that the person that he was speaking to was on sick leave, that had asked not to speak to him, and had been previously told that he was not to call them.
So he was.
So
trying
I
to
was
do-
on damage control
Oh, Jesus.
massively,
Yep.
because this was a tier 1 client, a massive client, Australian well-known client.
Yeah.
And all I could think of is, oh God,
Yep.
legal action could be taken. So I'm on the phone to her, assuring her that she never has to deal with him again. And I'm, profusely sorry, and that we will absolutely look after them, and, fix this up. And you're on sick leave at home, so make an appointment. Can I speak to you when you're back at work?
Yeah.
Working. And so I said this. I get off the phone, and I realised that so the person who's gone nuts has emailed her from home.
So he's left and then emailed
He's
the
left,
client.
and he's basically, in his email, told her that he knows that he's backed her into the corner and made her feel unsafe, but he still wants to do the deal anyway. In writing. Reading this email going, oh my gosh. And by this time it was in the late afternoon and people were leaving. And so I'm like, I've just got to fix this up. I called her, profusely apologised again, said we are going to take steps to make sure that he knows that this is totally out of line. But also, just said to her, look, I understand if you never want to speak to us again, but please let us know, how can we restore in good faith.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a massive client. We don't want to lose the account, but God, it wasn't it was looking worse. And so I found myself back at work by myself at about 5:36, trying to clean up that work, but also then, because I had to stop for 3 hours fixing that problem, I had all the other stuff that I was meant to be doing. And I am one of those people that my work ethic is quite, would say I'm nearly a workaholic. I like to get stuff done. And so the first thing I heard was the footsteps up the steps. So we're sort of a second level over a shop front in Blackburn. And he was like, you can hear, now he's a very overweight 6'5" man. So you can hear the coming up. And I'm like, oh God, I hope that's not who I think it is. And when I realise it is, he's drinking a can of VB. Now remember, we're trying to get him into rehab for alcoholism, with a paper bag, and I'm not too sure what's going to go down here. Now I'm the entry to the door, he's blocking it.
One way in, one way out.
One way in, one way out.
Yep.
So I just ignore just ignore, get what I need to do and try and get the hell out of there. Anyway, so he goes to his, because I've sort of told him he needs to, we need to discuss this next day. And I'm just trying to work out the timing. But anyway, it doesn't really, in the side of things. So he drops his stuff over his desk, and then he comes up to me, stands over me and says, I'm not sorry for what I said to you. I'm sorry that other people heard.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh God, this could go any way.
Yeah.
I need to pacify this situation I just need to get out of here. So I said, oh, that's, just made it sort of feel like it's okay. These things happen.
De-escalate, yep.
Try, as much as possible. He's like, I'm effing this and I'm effing that and I hate this business. And I'm like, if that's how you feel, that's okay. I'm happy to accept your resignation. Absolutely.
Mm.
If you want to go off and do something else, fine. This is about you enjoying your work, and if you're not enjoying it. So I said to look, and, I'm happy to accept it. There's a printer, there's a paper. You just write me something and I'll sign off on it.
Do you think?
So he went to the printer.
Do you think that made it worse?
Got
or
his
better?
pen, sat right next to me, started writing it, put his pen down, and then said, no.
Oh,
I said, that's okay. Look, we don't have to discuss it now. We can discuss it tomorrow. And I'm like, in the interim, I'm trying to get the hell out of here. So I'm trying to pack up and just get out. And so I realised that the only way that I can get out of this building is basically pacify him and get him to get out the door, because I've got to lock up too.
yeah, of course.
So I'm like, okay, Dad, well, I'm going, we've got to go. Like it's nearly 6:30. I've got to get the train. So I'm locking up and doing it. I'm hoping, get him downstairs and hoping that he'll just walk off. Unfortunately, no. He waits for me and he watches me lock up. We go downstairs and lock up the door, and then I'm walking to the Blackburn train station, which is about 2 blocks, and he's walking with me, and I'm so scared that he could go anyway.
Oh, fuck yes.
And
You didn't think about running or diverting?
he was
or...
close to me, and then by that time, like I was in a suit with heels. Like, how far can you realistically run? And all I could think of is he puts his hand around me, like, and sort of gives me this hug.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you could smell fear, I could smell my own fear. Because I'm like, if I say anything wrong now, I'm dead. Because he is like a pin. He could go at any point.
Yep.
So, and I've still got at least a block and a half to get to the Blackburn station.
Is anybody around? Is anybody else?
It's
that you
dark.
Yeah.
Like, we're in June. Like, there's not that many people around. There's actually no one really around. So it was the longest it was only probably 2, maybe 5 minutes, but it was easily the longest 5 minutes of my life to get. And I finally got to the point where I could run across to get to the train station. I said, oh, that's my train. I've got to go. And I just got out of his sort of, it wasn't his grasp, but just got out of his sort of
Yeah.
enough to just get there. And then I got to the platform and I thought, oh my God, the train's not here. There's no train here, and he could be on his way to. So I remember hiding in the bathroom of the and then thinking, oh my God, I've just locked myself in. If he is coming, I've just put myself into a room. I can't get out of here. So I was like,
Well, at least you had a locked door between you and him, didn't you?
Like, what's that going to do
True.
with a 6 foot, 120
Yeah.
K man? Like, anyway, so I finally get out, and then I hear the train, and I've never been so excited about a train coming to the platform. And in Blackpool Station, the train sits there.
Yeah, for a period.
It's like,
Yeah.
It's a major train, so it sits
And you're
there.
going, fucking hurry up.
And I'm like, I've got in, and I'm like gone straight to as far as the front as I can, and I keep walking. I was like on edge. I was like, oh my God. And I didn't like calm down until I was at Richmond Station. And I remember calling a friend, and she and her partner spoke to me, and he was like, you've got to go to the police. You have to go to the police.
Where did he go? Did he go? Did he go to the train station? Did he follow you?
I don't know.
You didn't know. You just.
I just,
Yep.
that was enough for me to.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I didn't go to the police because I was in the mindset, it's okay that it happened to me. It's not okay that it would be okay if it happened to my employees, the people I was looking after. And that was the mindset I had, which is quite scary, but that's like anyone with domestic violence or because I honestly thought for 24 hours, nearly 48 hours, it's okay that he did that to me. Now, we're not talking about a relationship.
No, I get that. I personally listen to this, I can't understand why you would think that.
I think that I just had such low value of myself.
But self-esteem's never been a problem for you, has it?
No, but I guess I probably let people do things more to, like, my boundaries aren't as good, and they're a lot better now. But you know, I can understand now why people get into domestic violence situations and accept situations, because they don't think of themselves. They don't actually put themselves and go, hang on, I'm a human too. And it's hard to explain, but I honestly,
Oh no, I understand.
for
Imagine
48 hours, I was like, I am glad. And it took 48 hours for me to realise, what am I talking about? That was awful. Anyway, so he was terminated.
As he
But
should.
he was terminated. It took us a week. And my boss was not very happy. But he was terminated. And I was warned that it's likely he will come back into the organisation. And I took steps. I made sure that no staff were by themselves ever again. And I started to drive to work. I didn't take the train. So I changed because I didn't realise probably until a few weeks later, maybe even months later, that he was actually stalking me. It just didn't click. You know, if you have never had that.
He was.
Well, he was definitely stalking, like he was definitely waiting for me. He knew my routine.
Are you talking about after the fact or?
No, leading up to it.
Yes.
He was definitely having stalkerish stuff going on. There was definitely, but I didn't think about it until after, and I probably was a long time after, where maybe even a psychologist said, "Did you realise? Do you understand the significance of him being at the station waiting for you and waiting for the train for you, and walking you, you know, like knowing your routine?"
Did he ever show you any undue admiration towards you? Like, was there anything, any when you're looking back? No?
Not gestures, but like he would text message me, say, "Oh, that was a really good deal, congratulations," kind of thing, like those sort of things,
Which is a stock standard response to a good deal, isn't it?
Yeah, but I guess, why did he have my mobile number in the first place?
Okay.
Sort of like
Isn't- Is that weird? I don't know whether that's weird or not, because your co-employees.
Yeah.
Are you talking about a personal or?
No. Like for business, it was business. And that's the thing. People have to. I did not have a relationship with this guy apart from a professional relationship.
Yes.
There was nothing. There was nothing there. But so I would drive for 3 months, and then I went. My boss has health issues, or had health issues, and he was not able to go overseas. So I and the son went overseas, and when I was over there, I just said, "Oh, now that it's getting lighter, I think think I'm safe now. I can go back on the train and, get to work." Because you can work on the train. You can't work when you're driving. So,
Yeah, exactly.
And my commute at that time, I was living in South Yarra, was a significant 45 minutes commute at least.
Yeah.
So that somehow they thought that was a indication that I would accept this person to be re-employed again.
Oh, fuck.
Yes. So I was in
the insanity of it all.
So it gets worse. I was in the office and I was told that he was coming back that afternoon. So I'd just come back from overseas, probably a bit jet lagged, and all of a sudden he was coming back into the office. He was just fixing up his mobile phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
Not happening.
No way. Like, I nearly died. And they were like, they basically knew. They basically wanted to have 6 months, get 6 months of work out of him. So all of a sudden, I and everyone up in that office was given a price tag on their lives. Now, we're working for an OH&S company.
The irony.
The irony. So then I was demoted.
Did you not just?
And I was
get
threatened.
The fuck out. Did you not want to just go? I'm done.
Well, I think that's where we're getting to I think that's where my post-traumatic stress disorder comes from. I think I would have been not fine, but I think I would have handled the attack. But the fact that this person, who I thought so much of, was putting a price tag on everybody's life and then demoting me and backing me into a corner and saying all the employees that I would he basically said, "Oh, well, that's the end of the business. If you don't bring him back, that's the end of the business. You're all losing your jobs." And I actually went to his wife because I was so, like, I left and had to walk around the block just to calm down. I was just so upset that anyone would think about bringing a violent person back into an office, knowing full well that they will attack again. It's not a matter of when, like it's a matter of when. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said to her, because they had daughters, and I said to her, are you telling me that you'd be happy for your daughters to go to a football game with this person? That you would feel safe for them to be, that your teenage daughters in the same room as him? She said, oh, that's not the point. And I said, yes, that is the point. That is what you are getting your staff, your employees to do. You're basically saying to them that we know the risk, but we're willing to take it. And what happened was then I was marched back into the office. So they took me outside the office, backed me into the corner, told everyone's got to leave, so they're trying to get me to say yes. Mm. And then the next day I was in the office and I was just in the morning, and the boss goes to the son, let's get this over and done with. And then they go into the boardroom and call me into the boardroom. And they basically said, he's coming back. And if you don't like it, you can leave.
And
I got up, shaking, went to my computer, wrote an email to myself, basically detailing what happened. And then I said to the boss's wife, I'm taking leave for the rest of the day. And I left. And I remember crying all the way to Blackburn Station and then ringing my aunt to come get me at Richmond because I was just could not believe. And then the next day I made an appointment to the doctor and I collapsed in the waiting room.
Wow.
And he was just like, oh my God, what's happened? And he actually diagnosed me pretty much there and then as post-traumatic distress disorder, but it takes months for you to get that. Mm. Because from then on, I didn't sleep. I had nightmares. It is a trauma and it takes a lot of time. And so then I went on a work lover claim. And that in itself is an awful system. You're treated as the perpetrator, even though you're the victim, because you're now part of a system, a sausage factory that just wants to fix you up and spit you out as quickly as possible because the insurance company is all about time and money.
Exactly. Obviously, Ash in HR has shown me the system and how it works.
Yeah.
And you're right, from the employer's point of view, they if they're still involved in the equation, they want to fix you and get you back or get rid of you. Well,
actually, at the start, they try and prove that you don't apply. So for a mental health...
Oh, so that you don't qualify.
So you do not qualify,
okay.
Right? So that's their first take, that whatever your injury is, you didn't get it from work. So for me, having a mental health illness caused from work, they went through my whole history.
And, of course, the onus is on you to prove it.
Have to prove it. Have to.
Guilty unless
So
otherwise.
When you think about my background before that happened, I had lived in Cambodia in a rural, remote place for a year, dealing with subsistence farming and death probably once a week. And I had lost a mother of ovarian cancer at 25. So I've got a lot of back trauma in my life. Anyway, so I wasn't bouncing back and I thought, okay, well, I'll go and see a psychiatrist. I'll make an appointment, I'll pay the money and I'll go and see a psychiatrist because...
Isn't that part of the process of a work cover? Don't they provide those services?
No, but this is I'm giving you the backstory because the reason why I was accepted into the system was because a year before I had got sign-off from a psychiatrist to say basically that all my other past traumas I had dealt with and was fine,
right, and
I was bouncing back. If I had not had that report, there is absolutely no way I would have been accepted into work cover.
I understand. because it's not their problem.
Yeah, because you've got too much other stuff going on,
Yep.
and we can prove it.
Yeah.
So it was probably the best $800 I've ever spent.
So
be honest.
the accumulation of trauma that you had prior to this incident, you said you had dealt with it?
Yeah, well, on a yes. So it's one of those things that they're trying to work out whether you've got things that you need to deal with, or yes, there is trauma, but it's not stopping you living your life.
Yep.
Where post-traumatic stress disorder stops you living your life.
It's that bad.
It's that bad. And for me, I could barely function. I was basically, at one point, they never thought I'd go back into a workplace again.
Are you doing this by yourself, or you've got family help? You got family around you to help you? Or are you trying
My family couldn't really understand why I got trauma from this and not
Something
other
else.
stuff, right? And as educated as they all are, mental health is one of those things that you can't see it and you don't get it. So why can't you just flick a switch and go back? Just get on with it.
Well, people don't understand. You don't know until you know.
And I actually, a few years later, because I was having so much trouble with my family, and even now it's still the elephant in the room. I just get on with it and don't.
The thing is about support, because so many people go through this stuff by themselves, and it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle.
Yeah, and there's a time, like I was suicidal at one point. And, I have a dog. I never thought I was a dog person, but I got a dog because that, at one point they said a dog really helps you with a routine. And God, it does.
Yep.
Like, she has saved my life.
Well,
Because
you're not the
she's got me
first.
in the...
You're not the first
No, and
person
I
to
won't
say
be,
that, and you won't be the last.
And I won't be the last. But
Exactly.
that's, because mental health, it's like it can be treated as a weakness, not an illness. And when you're vulnerable, people do take advantage of vulnerability.
It's human nature.
Because if it's not treated like a disease, if it's treated like a weakness, then you're a free-for-all.
I think this day and age, that gap's getting smaller, as you say, between people's awareness and people's understanding about it. There's a lot more talk about it. There's a lot more talk about it. But there's still people that will never understand it. And it's like if you have never had a panic attack, or you've never had
you don't get it. I had a lady that was telling me, well, just get on with it. Why can't you get up out of bed?
Well,
And I was like,
that's the old school way to deal with shit, and that's how they did it, and that's how generations have done it. Does that mean society is softer than what it was?
yeah. But, I mean, there's a time in everyone's life, like when you've gone through this, and people don't understand it because if they haven't gone through it, but there is a time where you make a conscious choice, I think, because you can go and say, right, I'm just going to give up and be someone else's problem. And that might be you go to alcohol or drugs or whatever, but you give up and you say, I'm just going to become someone else's problem, or I'm going to finish it, or I'm going to take the harder task and actually heal myself and find people that want to help me heal.
Yeah, it's that self-respect, isn't it? It's that understanding. In my experience, it's about understanding your own consciousness.
Yeah, and also hoping that you can make yourself better. You can set boundaries, and you can. I mean, there was a time where I just had to lock everybody out, and my niece actually said to me, "Oh," she commented. She's basically said, "Oh, you were the only one at one point that was talking to me. I was the only one you were talking to." And I was like, "Oh, probably right." And it's just
Because she
you have
wasn't
to. I'm on survival.
confrontational, or exactly.
No, I just had to. I had to do what I had to do, and I had a lot of things happen to me because of my weakness, because I was deemed as weak, and that's the unfortunate. It's the unfortunate thing. So, yeah, I had a point where I could have ended it, or I could have just gone into alcohol and gone that way. But I chose the harder path because remember, I was told basically, you're never going to do much at all. You could barely be a tea lady, let alone get into the workplace.
Well, who's telling you that? And when was that? I look at your resume. I look at your work history. I look at everything you're doing and everything you're doing now. I can't see a blip on a radar that would indicate that it wouldn't have been anything other than that.
There's a lot of hard work.
And
I'm very, very lucky. One of the companies that I helped, another company that I helped internationalise while I was with the British government, he knew the situation, and a year into my illness, he basically said, there's a desk, there's a not-for-profit not doing anything. Anytime you want to come in and just do something, it's there for you. And that was the biggest leg up I could have ever hoped for. But it was the hardest thing to do. I remember like not being able to pick up the phone, not being able to go to the toilet because I was so scared. And any time I had to pick up the phone, I would think I was about to be hurt. So my trauma, like even walking into that office was so difficult. And these people didn't know. They had nothing to do with what happened.
Well, they have no idea what's going on.
They have no idea.
Internally.
And they have no idea, like the panic attacks that I would have just on simple things. Like, and I could not go on the tram or the train. I could not go anywhere near anyone that was double my size and weight. I just could not do it.
Where are you at now? Where are you at?
I'm probably 95% back. I'm like, I've had people say, oh my God, you're back to what you are. But I'm still a routine, like I'm still in a really strict routine.
This is all I know of you, is what I'm seeing here now. I can understand what's happened. I just can't imagine. It's hard to
I was a really
imagine.
sick person.
It's hard to, yeah. Exactly.
And I was barely able, like even in the morning before I take my drugs, sooner I get up, the sooner I go to bed is my motto. Every morning, sooner I get up, sooner I go to bed.
Wow. I go, when's my next meal and when am I going to the gym?
Yeah, so
that's
different.
That's how I operate.
But that's because when I wake up, I've got no drug in me and I force myself out of bed. And then I go for a walk and I take the dog for a walk and then the drugs have kicked in and I'm good to go. Now, I'm taking a very small dose of my drug and sleep is also, I know I can live off 5 hours. I used to be
it's
only
not a
3,
lot,
4 hours. Well, I used to be like, you know, they say about cloud, the baby cloud, like the young mothers.
Yep.
Well, I know exactly, like, because your cognitive abilities, if you've had little sleep, they just go backwards. And they say that about, you know, driving with drunk driving, and if you haven't got enough sleep in you, you can be just as bad. If not
exactly.
worse.
Yep.
And I can see that, and that's why I said to you, I think this morning, about there's times where I will not drive. I know I'm not capable of driving because I'm far too tired and my cognitive ability is unable to do so.
And that comes back to that conscious awareness of where you're at.
Yeah, it's like cooking. I won't cook when I'm really tired because I'm likely to burn myself and not feel it or hurt myself in some way because my cognitive ability is less, and for some reason I've had issues where I've burnt myself badly and haven't felt it for a few hours. I've seen it or I've cut myself and it's only when I look at the blood that triggers the response.
Wow.
You just got to be aware.
It's hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
So talking about going back to drugs again.
Yes.
You said you're on a very low dose of Dex, which is
dexamphetamine,
which is technically an ADHD.
It is,
drug.
yes.
It's a methamphetamine.
It's not known
it's a
for
stimulant.
and it's not known for, or it's becoming a bit more known, but it's not known for.
It's not on the list of drugs to give to PTSD.
Depression, yeah, but they're also treating the side effects. So for me, for post-traumatic stress disorder, I have chronic fatigue. That's a big one for me. I mean, I do have depression and I do have anxiety, but I'm better able to cope, and the panic attacks, I'm better able to cope with those sort of things, and I know early enough the signs to remove myself.
Right.
So, and I know that I am improving. Like my friends tell me all the time how far I've come, and I know that I am improving. I'm doing way more stuff than I ever used to do. Like I played tennis last night. 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to hit a ball at night. Like my ability to even connect a ball would not have been possible. So I know that I'm improving. But remember, I'm in also a very strict routine.
Well, once again, because we talked about mental illness and routines.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are diagnosed, they're on medication for mental illness, depression, whatever, but they don't have a routine or a structure in their life, which compounds their mental illness. You've got to sleep well.
Yes.
You've got to eat well. You've got to have routine.
Yeah.
You've got to have the structure in your life to set that platform for whatever medication you are taking to be of most effectiveness. Because, as you say, you take your medication in the morning, I take mine at night, I sleep like a fucking baby. That's the beauty of it. I know I'm going to get a solid 8 hours. If I don't get 8 hours sleep, it's cause and effect. There will be some ramifications during that day, or it's the second day, or it's the third day. Like, I can go out in the piss and have a great night. I'm going to pay the price the next day if I'm in bed at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's all right. Yeah.
Once again, cause and effect. Now, that's the same, not just for mental health patients. It's the same for a lot of people in society as well too.
Yeah.
Normal functioning people that don't have these routines, or have these routines that are unhealthy for them, which will lead to other things happening to them. Diabetes from bad diet, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't matter whether you do or have a diagnosis.
But sometimes it's hard. It's all well and good to be told, get in a routine, it will make you better. But these are long-term benefits. Like, we're talking about like a strict routine. You don't see it overnight, like some do, but it's sometimes really hard. Like, you have to be really strict. And I know, like you, at one point I didn't even drink. I stopped drinking because I had side effects from drinking, where if I drank too much, I would black out, and people wouldn't.
I've always had that side effect.
No, but it's not blacking out. I became.
So I'm not trying to take anything away from you.
But it was scary because I would wake up, and I might only remember having three drinks.
Far out.
And I wouldn't remember anything for 12, 14 hours, right?
Yep.
And I'd wake up in my bed going, "Ollie, what happened?"
Yep.
And my friends would be like, "Oh, you're back. You're awesome. Like, we had a great night." I can't remember any of it. Can't remember any of the conversations. And one of my friends said, "If I knew you were not you, I would have taken you home."
Yep.
But she's like, "You were fine. You were great. You were having really good conversations. You weren't."
It's
and I was
amazing
like,
how the mind works,
I
isn't
cannot remember
it?
any of it. Like, I can remember just like nearly like photos.
Yep.
That's it.
Snapshots.
Snapshots is something in time, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I just stopped for years. I'm back. I'm back drinking,
back,
even though I
baby.
shouldn't. Even though they say you shouldn't withdraw, but I am very wary of how much I drink and who I'm with as well.
Have you got an addictive personality?
I don't know. Have I?
Okay, well, a question for you
don't
is,
know.
over the course of your journey, have you been obsessive about something in particular, or you know how some people go, I could
Apart from a workaholic.
I could never take cocaine because I'd just make a pig of myself.
No, not really.
That was never
like,
part
it's
of your
like
person-
chocolate, like I can have one piece of chocolate and leave the block, where a lot of people could have to eat the whole.
That's my wife.
My old housemates used to hate me bringing chocolate and chips. Like, my pantry, I'm a snacker.
Yeah.
And my friends love coming over because I know there's always chips and there's always chocolate and there's chocolate biscuits and there's always these snacks. But I can have one chocolate biscuit and that'd be it.
We can't have anything nice in our house because of Ashley. I hope you're listening.
You can come over to my place and raid it anytime.
Yes, go to Majella's if you, raid her
Once
joint.
I'm finished my garden.
I mean, it's good for me because it keeps me trim. So that's what it's all about.
Well, I keep trim because of the amount of exercise I've got to do.
That's right, which is part of that routine.
Yeah.
So over your journey, you've worked out this formulation of what works and what doesn't work.
With specialists, so I went to a sports physiologist, if you like, to work out my heart rate, to work out how much could I walk without getting a cardio outburst. And I'm that fit that I'm lucky enough that I can walk. without having too much cardio, because it's all about balance. Because chronic fatigue, like once you hit an edge, you're like it's like I always say to people, it's like an ever-ready battery, that bunny ad, where you put the bunny in and it goes, and then all of a sudden it stops.
Yep.
And that's what chronic fatigue almost is. Like you can go normal and then all of a sudden you're gone. You just got no choice. You go back. You've got to go to bed.
So you've learned to control that with, as you say, with the exercise or the amount of exercise.
Yeah, and there's still times where like, I've done too much or there's a build up and I'll just have a weekend in bed. I just know that's part of the illness, and that's just, like yesterday I've had a big few weeks and I got to Friday afternoon and I went to bed for an hour and a half, then got up, walked the dog and played tennis.
Yeah, perfect.
And that was like...
That sounds like my ideal day.
But it's sort of like I try not to go to bed during the day because I've got sleep issues and I don't want to take a drug for sleep because a lot of them are addictive, or the ones that I've been given are addictive. And I'm like, I don't really want to take an upper and then a downer. I want to be able to control that. So I've been able to, I've had some really good advice along the way. Like I take 2 Panadol every night before I go to bed.
What's that?
And that's meant to lower your temperature and help with because when you're sleeping, I've been told that that's when like your body rejuvenates.
Yeah, of course.
So Panadol the 2 Panadol allows your body to relax and to lower the temperature and to help with that.
Yep.
Switch off. And it's Panadol. So that's, and I know that if I can't sleep or I'm overtired, this is going to sound weird, and I put my legs above my head. And I don't know the science to it, but basically what that does is it makes your heart pump harder to get to your feet that are above your head.
Yes. And
for some reason that is a relaxation.
I must try it.
So I know, especially when I'm traveling overseas now, I'm like, there's no way if you told me 5 years ago that I'd be traveling overseas for work. Like not a chance in hell that would happen. Like I was like, I'd be lucky to get to work, let alone travel for work. But yeah, I do that, like especially if I'm a bit jet lagged or I just can't, or I'm overtired, which is like awful feeling. I will put my legs above my head for a little while, and that will help me to just help with the overtiredness so that I can get sleep. But I know that I can function on 4 to 5 hours. Not ideal.
As you said, that's not a lot.
Short term.
It's not a lot.
But 6 to 7 hours, I'm okay.
Yep.
But I prefer my normal bedtime is 9:30 every day.
Yep.
So, midnight for me is a big night out.
Oh, yeah. Nothing good happens after midnight.
That's right.
We all fucking know that.
We learned that the hard way.
We all know that.
But so, yeah, I'm strict, and my alarm goes off at 6:30. I'm walking 7, bit after 7. So that's, on weekends I allow myself to sleep in if I'm not doing anything, and that, that just helps me reset. So I do, to be able to work now, and I'm doing 4 days over 5, I do need time in the weekend to reset, which means more time in bed.
Well, that's what weekends are for.
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's right.
That's what it's designed for. This podcast is brought to you by Holy Shirt Australia. Holy Shirt Australia are 100% online. They're Australia's largest no minimum custom print and embroidery company. All their services are completed in-house, and they can deliver all orders promptly and professionally. They like to keep it simple and straightforward, so they offer cool stuff that can be custom printed or embroidered to your liking. They have an easy-to-use online designer to build your custom apparel from the comfort of your home or office. They offer pricing that reflects your individual order, and remember, they are no minimum on all their products. They deliver what the customer expects when they expect it. They've got over 1,500 products ready for you to custom print or embroider today, right now. So head to holyshirt.com.au for all your custom clothing requirements. So you said you've done a clinical trial. Now,
I have.
Were you a struggling student that needed to pay the rent? Because it pays quite well, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
For healthy young people.
For healthy young people, especially if you've got phase 1 healthy that have to stay overnight. Yes, it does.
And you were saying that the chances of a drug killing you is next to nothing.
In these you're probably in the safest environment. A lot of these clinical units are either in hospitals or next to hospitals. And because of the regulation, they've got everything. You're basically in the safest place you can be.
So what would be the worst case scenario? Would it be like a reaction to something?
It's a reaction. And there are basically safety protocols and
You'd want to hope so.
oh
of
no,
course.
but it's massive. Like even the most minor thing is reported, it's analysed, it's discussed at length. So, and that's what we want. We want to know early, the sooner the better, how this product in the system is going to react.
Well, as you say, phase 1 is when you want it to fail, don't you?
Well, yes, but phase 1's really it's not really about the therapeutic side of things. It's more about the safety, and just seeing what happens when it actually is in the system. So it's not even a therapeutic range, if you like, a dosage. It starts really small.
They'd start with a small dose and then just amp it up and see what the reaction is.
Yeah, so they would start, depending on the trial, and if it's in healthies, they would do sort of a standard trial is a SAD-MAD study where they do one cohort is just with a dose and they'll check it and they'll have a safety review meeting and they'll see what's going on. And then they might up the dose in different cohorts, just slowly up and just see what if anything occurs.
And of course, as the phases go up, they increase the
No.
pool.
So really by phase 2, they know the dosage.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about the amount of people that they need to test these on.
Oh, yes.
So the volume of people, the volume of testes, healthies.
Correct. So by phase 3, you could be doing hundreds of patients, depending on the therapeutic area.
And you said you did a trial.
I did do a trial.
Yep. It wasn't for a drug though.
It wasn't for a drug. It was for a therapy, for psychology therapy. So it was not a drug related. It was more like a psychotherapy treatment. So you've got meditation, you've got hallucination types, or like when they put you into a state where you kind of tell a story. So mine was Phoenix. Australia is a non-for-profit based out of University of Melbourne, I think, and they basically specialise in post-traumatic stress disorder. And most of their trials are for military and for service people, but they did have a trial for post-traumatic stress disorder that they opened it up to the public. And I only found out about it because my then psychologist wanted to do this similar treatment to me, but she'd never done it before, so I was a guinea pig and I was going to pay for that.
Well, that's a bit mean, isn't
So
it?
I did some more research and I thought, well, if I can get into this clinical trial, I might be able to get the treatment. Now, they had 2 different treatments that they were trialling. One was exposure therapy and the other one was more of a softer therapy that was more about talking about it, but also writing about it. It was just a different form. And I really went on there to do the exposure therapy.
I was going to say, can you explain
Exposure therapy?
exposure? Basically, you're just getting re-exposed to a
Over.
shitty scenario.
Over and over again.
Far out.
Yeah,
That sounds like a mind fuck.
It's not for the faint-hearted, and most people don't get through with the trial
Yeah.
because what it means is that every week you meet with a psychiatrist that is part of the clinical trial, and you have like a double appointment. So it goes for about an hour and a half. And the whole point of that is that you get taped that story. And then for the week, you have to listen to that story morning and night. And you have to rate your anxiety, if you like, or your uncomfortableness every time you hear it. And every week, the story gets more intense. So you're exposing yourself to the trauma. And that's why a lot of people, because there's you are listening to yourself tell the story every morning and every night. And then the next week, so went for about 10 weeks, if I remember. And every week you have to talk about it and then go through it again. And then, so it's a lot of work. And it
Sounds harrowing.
And that's why a lot of people don't get through it. But for me, it was a fundamental cornerstone, apart from all the drugs and everything else, but it was a fundamental to me in my recovery because it really, really helped me get over that hurdle of being able to function better than what I was
So it
I'm
did
taking.
it did the job it was intended to.
Yeah, and look, I've been able to tell the story today relatively okay. I mean, and I wouldn't have been able. Not many people can do that, and I think that's the credit to the Expo because it's taken it down a notch. Like it's happened. It's happened. Can't do anything about it. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm not going to be attacked by talking about a story. And when you're in a trauma state, everything can trigger you, and you never know where that trigger can occur. And that could be a stress attack. It could be a panic attack. It could be a full-on depression that you just go into a dark place and, you know, you can't explain it sometimes. But that exposure therapy and what that organisation allowed me to do was to accept what happened, but also be able to readily talk about it and to put it into perspective. And that helps you to move on.
So what we've done here today is basically a psychological session. What do they charge?
It was free.
No, what do they normally charge? Like $1,000 an hour or something?
Oh,
Like
yeah. It's
500?
like if you go to a psychologist and
I think, Maddie, that's how we're going to make some money. Mate.
charge me
We'll just, instead of a podcast, we'll just call this just therapy.
therapy session.
There we go. I've solved the fucking problem. No, once again, I really appreciate you telling that story. Does that feel, in some way, does it feel like it's been therapeutic doing this today and talking about it? And I mean, you've had to relive it. When was the last time you told that story?
I've probably since then. So that was during COVID, so probably 2021, 22.
And how do you feel now? How do you feel after telling that and knowing that a lot of people are going to hear this?
I probably
How's that
didn't
make you
think about the
feel?
latter.
No.
You know, look, if my story helps someone else think about I can get help or I can do this, because it's all about a journey. Life's a journey. Life isn't fair, as we both know.
No, we know that.
And it's all about small steps. Don't worry about where you're trying to just get to the next point.
What's one foot in front of the other?
Just
isn't it?
one foot in front of, and that's really why I've come this. And I still think that, you know, you say, are you better? And I'm like, oh no, I'm still 90%. Like there's things that I still want to be able to do. Now I might never be able to do everything, but that's okay. And you know, like I'm never going to have children. I've passed that point. But I still hope that one day I can be in a relationship, be able to go out at night and not have to worry about the next 3 days of trying to keep up. So there's certain things that I know may never happen, but that's okay. Like it's more about also accepting your illness and not making it an illness or not making it like it's taken a long time to make it just part of your life. Like that's who I am. Not it's an illness, it's a disease and I'm a disadvantaged. And that's a mindset in itself.
Oh, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can see how people can be enveloped by their own thoughts.
Oh, and also like the work cover system, by law, you have to tell every employee after the fact that you were on work cover.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So every new employer...
For 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden that weakness can be used against you.
Is that information made publicly? So if I'm an employer and you don't disclose it,
I have to disclose it.
but if you don't, have I got an avenue where I can find out whether?
I don't know that, but I was just told that I have to ensure that my employee know. And you know, I've part-time, so you know, these days you're not meant to ask why, but people want to sort of know.
Is that the same? Is that the same with mental illness? Do you have to disclose mental illness?
If you've been through work cover, one of the requirements, it's a bit like once you get your payout, you're not allowed to be on Centrelink or like you're not allowed to be Centrelink for a few years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you cut off from.
But
anything.
if I'm prescribed medication for depression from a doctor, and I don't tell my employer,
It's none of their business.
None of their business.
It's only work cover that has that because
Okay.
you've got a workplace injury,
Yeah.
and for some reason, other employees should have a right to know.
Do you think that's fair from an employer's point of view? Do you think that if say I'm interviewing for a job, I don't disclose I'm bipolar, I get a role with a company and something triggers me, and there's an incident, do you think that's fair?
Oh,
I know you can't answer it because you're not an employee.
you're an employee, you're an employer, and
yeah,
I'm in.
yeah.
I think, if you are going into a new workplace and you've got a mental illness that you're managing, my condition's considered stable, I don't think you need to know unless you do have an incident. Okay. Now, if that incident is an incident that it causes me to have an employment warning, so be it.
Yes.
But I should, as an employee, then be able to come to you and say, I've had this. I understand that it was outside of employment policy, but this is why, and I've got medical background to give you.
Okay, so you're saying that if there is an issue,
that's when it should be addressed.
That's when it should be addressed.
Yeah, because everyone has mental health issues. Everyone's got anxiety. I mean,
no, nobody's untouched.
No one's untouched. Anyone that goes to a psychologist will be diagnosed with something or will be having to deal with something.
Yeah.
Because they'll find something, whether you know it or not.
Well, even an eating disorder.
Yeah, they'll know it. They'll find something. Most of us have many things.
I mean, it is a bit of a minefield out there with regards to employment, employers, and
Yeah, I just think that mental health is more considered to be a weakness than an illness because you can't see it.
Yeah,
and that's
part
of the problem.
I
and
fully
that's
agree.
One of the issues I have with work cover is that it's like being in prison. Like you have to then tell every employee that you've been in prison no matter what you've done. So what you're never going to be freed, and you're always going to be then penalised for something you might have done at 18.
Exactly. Although don't the records get expunged after a certain amount of time?
I don't know,
years?
but it's still a long haul for them.
Yeah. We're getting the stigma behind it, and as I said, but hopefully this day and age, with the conversations people are having, that's less and less.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more talk in the workplace, a lot more accepted. HR are all over it. They understand what happens and and how to handle it, which is fantastic.
You would hope, but sometimes it's not the
depending
case.
Your story's been a prime example about how that can fail. This podcast is brought to you in part by Buckfast. What is Buckfast, you ask? Well, let me tell you. It's better known as Bucky, and it's an internationally enjoyed, unique tasting tonic wine. It's equally rich in heritage as it is in taste. It packs a punch from 15% alcohol and about the same amount of caffeine as a well-known drink that gives you wings. Buckfast's enjoyment is only rivaled by its versatility from the cooking pot to the wine or cocktail glass. Drink it straight, mix it in a Negroni, or use it as a marinade. Available Australia-wide and distributed by Beeblebrox Beverages. Visit beeblebrox.com.au to find your closest stockist and buckfast.com for cocktail and recipe ideas.
There was something that happened that shouldn't have happened.
Are you ultimately at peace with the outcome?
Yes, yeah. You got to move on.
Oh, exactly.
Right? Yes, I got paid out. Yes, it was a decent amount for me to live, not be financially unstable. But I still have to work, and I still want to work.
Well, you'd be silly not to, wouldn't you? You've got to keep your mind busy.
But this is the thing: there's a choice. There is a choice at one point where you decide, nah, I'll let myself be someone else's problem, or I'm going to solve this myself. I'm going to make this happen for myself. I'm going to make the best out of a worse situation.
Which you've done.
Which I've done. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Inspirational.
Oh, well. Yes, I'm very lucky I have friends that keep reminding me just how far I've come.
That's good. You need them. As
you
I
do,
said,
because otherwise you sort of forget sometimes just how sick I was.
Yeah. It's about surrounding yourself with the people that are going to help you instead of hindering you.
Well, and also pull you up
Yeah.
when you're being an idiot.
Yeah, that's a true friend.
Yeah.
A true friend's the one that you ring at 2:00 in the morning and go, I need help. They're
Yeah.
the one, and then they're the ones who answer
Where
the
are
phone.
you?
Where are you? I'm
What-
coming.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
that's exactly right.
We were talking about oncology and cancer,
Yes.
and we touched on the fact that I don't know anybody that hasn't been touched by cancer at one point in their life, and especially me at 52, I've got two cases running concurrently at the moment. I understand cancer, and I know more about treatment of it. And when you're on the inside looking out from a cancer diagnosis and cancer treatments, it can seem quite frustrating that there's no real fix. There's no one fix suits everybody's cancer is different. Of course, there's types of breast cancer that are understood to be, this type, and then there's other stuff, and cancer can come from fucking anywhere and form anywhere, which is a scary thing about it. We talked about whether cancer was more and more hereditary now. Like females with breast cancer being handed down technically through the family. Is that what you know? Is that your experience with regards to what you know about cancer and what you know about drugs and treatments?
I think they've still got a long way to go about understanding all the different, and a lot of it isn't hereditary, and a lot of it they don't know. If they knew how to prevent something, you'd be told. And so that's why there's so many clinical trials and so many, there is so much to learn still, because every cancer is different, every human's different. What is good about the science at the moment is that, I hope that in the next generation, our treatment of cancer is more precision treatment, not chemotherapy where you kill out everything, and it's better to have hopefully some of the cells survive that you've had terrible side effects, but it's killing everything. Where we're getting into the science where it's precision, where actually it's targeted. It's targeting that cancer. It's targeting that spot.
The Panadol.
It's so, when we talk about chemo, and even in my mum's day, like 20 years ago, chemo was like, everyone's on it. And it's still around, and it still does, it does the job that needs to be done, because there's nothing better in the market at the moment.
Well, you've got chemo and you've got radiation.
Yes.
Those are basically your two options, correct?
And you've got, you've also got surgery. So you might actually get surgery. You might be able to cut out a certain amount of the cancer.
Yes.
And then you may have a bit of chemo just to, kill the cells developing, and then the radiation therapy will target that area. But that depends on just what cancer you're dealing with and what the stage is. Like my mum was stage 4 cancer. So by the time...
What type of cancer?
So ovarian cancer, but most times with ovarian cancer, you don't know until it's in the stomach.
Yes.
So once it spreads...
Yep.
Once it's a secondary, it doesn't necessarily turn out well at the moment. But precision medicine, and that's what we're going into with STEM and cell therapies and gene therapies, it means that it will be very targeted, and it'll be targeted to you as the individual.
Based on your genes.
Based on you, yes.
Based on your DNA makeup.
And we're getting to that point, but we're still probably 10 to 15 years away for it to be readily available. So we've got CAR T therapies that are being undertaken, but they're very specific and they're very expensive. And the governments can fund, obviously, to help that expense, but there's only so much funding the government has to be able to support that type of therapy.
Exactly. I've had a couple of people that I've known that have had a certain type of cancer, and it's got to the point where their last remaining option is a very, very expensive drug.
Yes.
And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine that died. He actually died from adrenal gland cancer. And I said, what are poor people doing? He goes, they just die. It's as simple as that. They you're
Yeah, sorry, that was someone ringing me. Should take my phone off. Lost the moment.
That's all right. I just made light of cancer. I just tried to make it funny.
But it is, and especially in other countries, it is very true that it can send your family broke.
Oh, I've seen so many families that have just been torn apart by a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, if you don't have insurance or you don't have good medical cover, you're on the back foot from the word go. That can depend on what specialists you see and the quality of those specialists and the right diagnosis from the right specialist with the right treatment plan for what you've got. And it is very frustrating that it's one of these diseases that can just get anybody, anywhere, anytime. And I think the main thing that we try to talk about, we try to educate with Leeward, is that you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
Big advocate for blood tests every 3 to 6 months. Like, you're going to pick up a lot with a blood test. Skin checks, mole checks, very important. Echocardiograms, breast mammograms, pap smears, all these things that are provided by our healthcare system and should not be a lot of cost out of pocket. Now, I understand mentally sometimes ignorance is bliss. And there's a reason why they say that, is that you can quite happily go through life and not worry about what maybe could be happening to you internally. But I'm the sort of person that needs to know. I want to know. I don't want something creeping up on me and biting me in the ass, and then me ultimately being frustrated about my own ignorance or lack of action.
So have you done a genetic test?
I haven't done a genetic test. I'm not a I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm sort of I'm borderline hypochondriac. As I said, I get my bloods done regularly. I get my skin checked. Everything I had at 50, I did an echocardiogram. Everything else to make sure that I'm in check. And obviously I work out. I've got a pretty good diet. I try to tick all the boxes. Tell me what a DNA test is going to tell me. Is it going to tell me something that everything else I'm doing is not going to tell me?
No, it's just there's tests now that could tell you that you have a possibility of having certain. You might be in a certain category for certain diseases.
Right. It's that concise.
It can, yeah. So they can give you you can do a DNA sample and then send it off. I think the states do it. I don't know whether it is anywhere in Australia. And they can come back with a report based on your DNA about, how you go, like what may happen. And remember, with genes, you need a trigger.
Right. Yeah.
But
something's got to spark that.
Yeah, but if you're aware of certain things, you might actually do stuff. Like if you're aware of maybe having potentially a type illness like dementia or something, you might then be more open to doing certain things to help your brain keep functioning. So it's just an awareness. For me, I'm a bit like you. I do the basic stuff. Do I really want to know if I'm a candidate for a disease in the future that may or not be triggered? Not really.
It doesn't.
No,
really?
But I have got friends that are scientists and are in the biotech game that actually have, because they want to know.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
You can see I've written down DNA tests.
Yeah, but the issue is not so much Australia. I don't think Australia, but or the US. If an insurance company knows that you've got DNA that will tell you that you're going to do that, something could happen in the future, they could
really
change your premiums.
Well, obviously not.
It doesn't happen in Australia at the moment, but I think the US does definitely. You've got to be careful.
Fuck.
It's a bit like cars. Like, I know this is completely different, but if you look at the cars and the data and about the driver of the car, like that data could be used for your insurance premium.
Yep, exactly.
So there's what's to say that's not going to be used for your health premium.
Indeed. There's actually, I've been seen on social media, there's actually a couple of places in Turkey Air that you can go and do the full gamut.
Yeah.
We're talking like 2 days, MRI, CT,
DNA, yeah.
like the whole shoot match. And I think
Yeah.
it's only like about $3,500 US
It's
dollars.
not like we're not talking about a lot to get a DNA sample and then get. I think it's a few $100s.
Yeah, but
not-
what about, okay, so I'm talking like a CT or an MRI. I'm
Yeah.
like talking head to toe. Is that something that you would be interested in doing, to know? To like, I mean, what, you're only in your early 30s.
I wish,
You know?
but thank you. I said my last birthday that I was halfway through my life. People were like, "What?" And I said, "Well, if I get to, I'll say I'm 45. If I get to 90 and I still have all my wares about me and I'm functioning, I've had a damn good bloody life.
90's a good innings.
Like a great innings."
Like I said to my wife that she fucking hates it, and I've said it before on the podcast. My number's 65. So anything,
Wow.
listen,
Yeah. Okay.
listen, don't do what my wife does. 65's the number, and anything after 65 is a bonus. So my end game is to do as much as I possibly can with my life before 65. And then anything after that is a bonus. That's the icing on the cake. That's the cherry on the top. Do you understand
Yeah.
the thought
No,
pattern
I
behind
do.
that?
Yeah, and it's actually not a bad thinking. I guess when I said 90 is I don't want to live to 100. I don't want to be.
No.
But yeah, if I can get to my dad's age, which is 82, and still be functioning and still be healthy and not reliant on others,
Yeah.
I'd be doing well. But the reality is that, you know, I've already got a friend at 40 having had breast cancer. And we are starting to get people that we know start having scares. And so, you know, as we reach 50 and into 55, you know, there's all sorts of things.
Exactly, and my point exactly about Leeward and the mindset is that, you know, we know that muscle mass contributes in later life to more mobility and less mortality, and as you say, you just want to be healthy, cognitive, and mobile.
Yeah.
So go to the gym, do some resistance training.
And for females, I don't think there's enough education about premenopause and menopause. And the fact
we've already covered that.
have you?
Yeah, we've
There you go.
Yeah.
But it is a big thing because a lot of my friends have had children, and you know their ability to lose weight gets harder and harder as they get older.
Of course. Yeah, same with males as well too.
But it's just then you got all sorts
Yep.
of hormones that actually make you put on weight. So
Yep.
yeah.
Well, HRT, hormones in females, as you say, it can start as early as 37, or it can be 45, or it can be 55.
Yeah.
You know, and my wife, we've gone through this. Ashley, and so I said to her one day, I said, "Hey, don't you think you're perimenopause?" And she goes, "What do you mean?
is that?"
I'm too young.
Yeah.
This is not, you know, this is not." She didn't even. It wasn't even on the radar. I said, "No, this is what's happening." And of course, she's on HRT now.
And that was a clinical. That would have been went through clinic. That would have gone through all the stages.
Isn't that a
to
good
get
thing,
that-
though? Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, and there is side effects for that. So some females cannot tolerate that. And
What, their
that's
husbands?
Yeah.
That's supposed to make them more tolerate their husbands more. Or you think about, and it's the same with testosterone in men. You know, it gets to a certain stage where it just drops off dramatically after a certain age, and then there's weight gain, and then there's mood swings, and then you put that together with a wife that's perimenopause or menopausal, and boom, you've just got a recipe for disaster. You know, and there's a lot
Two
of
houses.
There's a lot of these
Two bedrooms.
2 beds exactly, and you get a lot of these relationships that aren't functioning the best that they possibly could. I mean, I started TRT not because I had low testosterone levels. I added it to my existing Seroquel, my bipolar medication.
Got to be careful though.
Yes, I understand. I've done the research. I've done a lot of research on it, and we've got to do another podcast specifically about it. But I've been on it for about a year or so. And what I didn't want to do is because my Seroquel, it got to a point where it just plateaued. And there was an incident around a panic attack through COVID that I couldn't break the funk from. And I didn't want to change my medication. I didn't. Everything else, as far as my timeline, my planning, my foundation, nothing was broken or needed fixing apart from that chemical imbalance. And I actually ended up talking to my doctor about it because I did it black market, and he said, and that goes back to that placebo. He said, mate, if it's working for you and it's probably just a placebo effect, go for it, do it. If it's going to make you, and that was the same about, we were talking about being on Seroquel for too long. I said to him, what's the downside of being on a drug for the rest of my life? He said, mate, you're going to be better on that drug
Than off.
than off that drug, because off that drug you're going to have more anxiety, you're going to have more issues, you're going to have more mood swings, you're going to have more things that you're going to have to manage, which technically it's a chemical imbalance, which you just fucking can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
That's your quality of life too.
Exactly. So there's and we were talking about drugs, like some cancer drugs will actually kill you before the cancer kills you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And that is just the way modern medicine is at the moment. But that's all they've got. And until we get more drugs coming through trials and more science, and I hope AI assists the medical profession to the point where this stuff should just be coming on a monthly basis, all these revelations about what can and should make us healthier for longer. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, AI is definitely part of the story. I don't know whether it's going to be as quick as what you say, but,
Well, I mean, it's the
but
same,
that sounds lovely.
Well,
to
you
the point.
think about it. You think about the speed of the internet back in the 80s
Yeah.
to the speed of the internet now, and all these other things that have just evolved in technology.
There's a lot of trial and failure in the drug development space.
You know what I like thinking about when I go to sleep at night is that there's a whole lot of smart people doing smart shit
Oh yeah.
that I just cannot comprehend it, and I thank them for that. Elon Musk. I didn't really want to mention him on this podcast, but you got to take your hat off to him. What he does and what he's doing. We're not going to get into American politics.
No.
We're not going down that road. But as I said, it's good to know that there's a lot of smart people using technology to get good results.
Well, there's a lot of smart people in this country. We are amazing. The research that we do, it's the commercialisation that we cannot. So we are up there with Boston and other places for our research and for our knowledge. But in terms of commercialisation, it is a really bad graph that's shown. And it's quite frustrating because, you look at Israel and other places and they are amazing at commercialising their innovation and technology.
Okay, so what's the problem? What's broken?
Well, they'd argue about it for years, but it's about the funding, the backing of government and funding and the way of allowing investment into these products. And we're so risk averse in this country, and I think there's a better way to allow money into getting innovation out to market.
Hey, I've got a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
Fentanyl.
Yes.
How much fentanyl will kill you?
Well, there's a loaded question. It actually depends. Well, for me, I probably only have to have a whiff of it and I'd be in trouble.
Is it so? Because we've heard stories about people lacing a card that they put on a person's windscreen with fentanyl, and they touch it, and then they're rendered unconscious. So a perpetrator's doing this to get a victim. Does that make sense, or is that bullshit? Is that
I don't know enough about the drug, but you think about every body is different. So I'm highly sensitive, as we've spoken
tolerant.
about.
We're talking about tolerance.
Tolerance, but also about the purity of the drug and the way the drug is used. So
fentanyl is an anaesthetic.
yes, but it depends on how it's like. It could become powder. It could be injected. Like, is it liquid form? Is it powder form? What purity is it? It's a bit like what type of it. It could be, I guess we'll go back to methamphetamines. Meth, many bonds. Dex, 2 bonds, Latin. So, you could see the same compound, but different. It does slightly different things because of the way it's chemically formulated.
Yes.
And so I don't know enough about that drug. I know it's a highly addictive and dangerous, and they allowed it to go on far too long and probably ignored.
Well, as far as I know, about 80% of it is manufactured in China. It's a synthetic drug, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
They reckon that China's playing the long game. They reckon they're infiltrating the US with fentanyl and trying to take over that way by killing off.
Well, it's highly addictive.
But the thing is that what I don't understand is that they're putting it in cocaine. So if you're selling a product, a party drug, and you're putting fentanyl in it, and because you've heard about this.
It's cheap though.
Yeah, so they've used. I don't know. This is what doesn't make any sense. If you're using it as an extender, or you're trying to multiply your product by putting another product in there, which is, as you say, which is cheap, but can potentially kill your user.
I don't think they care.
It doesn't, but it doesn't make any good. It doesn't make good business sense.
But they're hoping that it's not going to kill you.
That would the
We're not talking about specials here. Like, there's a big difference. I'll go back a bit. There's a big difference between, in the US with medicinal cannabis as opposed to cannabis.
Yes.
There's a big difference between medicinal cannabis and cannabis. Now, it's a grown product, but it's grown in different environments. So medicinal cannabis is grown very strict quality controls from genetics to of variety all the way through to getting to the lab, everything else. Cannabis, street cannabis, it could be anything. It could be laced with stuff.
Okay.
Right? So this is like fentanyl. There could be totally different types or subtypes of fentanyl that are some, and the purity could be quite different.
Right. That's where the misconception is, because
I think so. I don't know enough, but that's my take on, different. And, I'm highly sensitive. So I probably could only have a sniff and be dead in 2 seconds.
Yeah. As I said, it just doesn't make sense to me why you would add that to a product like cocaine when your end users.
But the cocaine's probably way more expensive than fentanyl. So you're probably wanting to give them.
Have you bought cocaine lately?
No.
It's expensive.
Right. Okay, I'll take your word for it.
But
that's why they do it, right? That's like any party drug. You hope that what you're buying.
Oh, exactly. That's the fear.
You just might not know.
Exactly.
You could be having laundry powder, or
Yeah. Well, I know you would know the difference.
Well.
Yeah. You would know the difference.
As I said, I didn't take my alcohol. Alcohol was my drug of choice when I was
So you've never used any illicit drugs at all?
No. Well, apart from obviously having dexamphetamine, so that's a type of speed, but no.
Do you need to carry a letter from your doctor so if you get pulled over?
I do when I'm overseas.
But what if you get pulled over in your car? It's going to show up on a drug test, isn't it?
I would say that I'm having such a small dose, so probably not. No. But I don't know about like a lot of ADHD patients would have 5-6 tablets a day, sometimes 10.
I know Jess that we had in here from the previous podcast said she's got to carry a letter, so if she gets drug tested on the side of the road, the swipe.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because they will pick that stuff up. But as long as you can prove that it's clinically being administered.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, but I do definitely take a letter when I'm going overseas because I'm obviously carrying a drug that's got street value.
But isn't it if it's a prescription, it's fine, and if it's because that's the thing is like if it's in a box with a prescription label on it, you're pretty well sweet, aren't you?
Yes and no. You go when you're going out of a jurisdiction like Australia.
The last thing you want to do is
you just don't want to risk it. And also, I was given a pill box for the week, so I actually do my weekly. So when I don't travel just with the little container. I travel with a whole lot of colourful pills in it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
have you ever been pulled up?
No. Touch wood.
Well, it's just.
But I am taking what they would say a very, very small dose.
Yeah, it is very small.
It is. Yeah, it's half a tablet, and on the weekends I might even take less. So.
Antipsychotics, DMT, psilocybin. Sorry, not antipsychotics. hallucinogenics.
Yes.
Well, your eyes just lit up when I said that.
Well, I'm really glad. Like,
So DMT,
it's great.
psilocybin?
Well, Australia's just allowed for clinical trials in this area.
Which
and
is
it's one
great.
of the first countries to do so.
Is that correct? We're one of the first?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
How do I sign up?
Again, remember I said about cannabis and medicinal
Yes.
versus, so we're talking about very regulated, and it's a specialty. And actually the treating practitioners, they have to go through hoops to be able to even
I'm sure.
use
But
it.
the good thing about that is that you know that you're getting the drug. You're getting the best version of that drug. Because as you say, on the street you could be getting fucking anything.
Oh, yeah, yes.
You know?
But this other thing, most of from what I'm aware, it's also part of therapy. So it's not just taking, well, in in a clinical setting, there's also the therapy related to that.
Yeah, you can't have the drugs and not the chat.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
But yes, it is open.
So you've
to-
never tried mushrooms or anything?
No, I'd be too scared to.
It
Because I am
is-
so sensitive to it. Like, I'd be worried about where my brain would go or
That's
whether
the-
it would get out.
That's the trouble I have with those, is that they remove you from yourself. So you get in these out-of-body experiences where a lot of times you can't control.
And that's why you want to be in a safe place with someone that has,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do not condone drug use at all on this podcast. But in my own experience, it is sometimes fucking terrifying.
yeah.
And you don't have control. And sometimes you just got to ride it out. But the good thing about it is if you've got good friends around you that are looking out for you,
Someone that's
it's a little bit
not-
safer.
yeah.
Look, I'm a big advocate of the DMTs and the psilocybins because they're natural occurring compounds.
Yeah.
You know, they're not manufactured and they're not synthetic. Like you look at Molly or MDMA, you know, as you say, in the old days when we used to go to raves, you get a pill, and fuck, do you know what was in that? There's a bit of acid, there's a bit of acetone, there's a bit of bleach in there. We'll chuck in some drain cleaner just to give it some texture. Unbelievable, you know, unbelievable. It's
quite scary,
It is very scary. So with regards to the
psychedelics.
the drug, do you want to know more?
Oh no! All I know is that it's great for post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma, and people that are on taking drugs that aren't working that's ruining their lives. This at least allows them a bit of hope that it's a new way of potentially tweaking their brain to a point where they can get out of the fog.
I wasn't going to talk about this today, but I think we've got to the point where I can. I did DMT.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience. It was fucking scary and amazing all at the same time.
Yeah.
I thought that I had died. I remember because we smoked it out of a bong, and I remember, and the good thing about it was two other friends of mine, and one friend was he was facilitating the session. So I'd never done it before.
But yeah, so you had someone that was
We're in a
after
safe
the-
environment.
Yeah.
You know, the room was dimly lit. We just, you know, the one thing about a DMT experience is that you're going to get a lot of geometric shapes and stuff going on in your vision. But I remember when I first inhaled it, and I lost consciousness, and then I woke. So as I lost consciousness, I felt my wrists roll out like this, which I now, in my understanding, was like taking your last breath and you relaxing as you die.
Wow. Okay.
So that was snapped out of pretty quick with me not being able to breathe.
Yeah.
And I remember the person that was with us just said, "Breathe, mate, just breathe,
Yeah.
just breathe." And I took like you would waking up from dying. I took my first breath again, and inhaled, and then the show started with all these shapes and even the people I was with. I remember the other guy. He was laughing like a fucking hyena because he was high and just enjoying all the shapes, and just the show was intense. It only lasted 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes. It felt like it lasted a long time. But the one thing that I took away from that experience, and I spoke about it, for a good 6 months.
Yeah.
It was like a factory reset. I didn't know I needed a factory reset, but that's exactly what I got. And it was really hard to explain, but I knew something had changed in me. And I often think that maybe I need to do it again. Maybe I need to, but it's a little bit terrifying in the same instance, because we actually did it. We did it twice. And I remember specifically not inhaling as much the second time because I was a little bit apprehensive about it. But thinking about going back and doing it again, I am a little bit apprehensive, but I know what it can do to me mentally, and I understand how we were talking about, how it's beneficial to people like me, that it just reset something in my head. Maybe it cleared some connections, maybe it made some more connections join up, but it was definitely an amazing experience.
Yeah.
As I said, we do not condone drug use.
And look, for me, I have always been down the medically legal route, but there was a chance, and not really with that sort of type of trying, but it's also the alternative alternative therapies like Reiki and a few others. I haven't done it, but I know that people do go down the alternative therapy. There's also Chinese medicine and all sorts of other things that, works for people, and it's whatever works. But it's also, I guess, you've got to be very careful and be in a safe place and be with people if you're going to go down that, because it could potentially be adverse. And I know I'm so sensitive with drugs that I'm very glad that alcohol was my drug of choice during college, because I probably would have been the person to OD on one tablet.
Well, when you think about it,
It's scary, but it's just, that's the reality of how sensitive I am.
But the thing is that it is that easy to do.
Yeah.
It is that easy.
Yeah.
The amount of times in my youth where I'd gone, well, I never questioned it because I didn't have this awareness or this consciousness about, hey, life's a little bit more than this little bubble that you're living in your 20s.
And you want to be curious. And I've got nieces and nephews that are going into their 20s, and I want them to be curious, but I want them to be careful. And I want them to, if that's what they decide to try or to do, be with people that are going to look after you. And make sure that they're going to look after you.
And the drug testing stations that they're now hopefully having more and more at these concerts and raves and stuff, bring it on. Yeah. Bring it on. Let's have these facilities. I mean,
because it's all about education as well. Like, a lot of them don't know what they're having.
No, exactly.
And a lot of it's just, such and such is having it, so I'll have it.
Yep.
I'm just following the herd. And it's like, either stand up and say, this is not for me, I'm going to stick to alcohol, which I would probably, in my nieces and nephews' case, prefer them to do. But if they're in a situation where they've decided that's what they want to do, just make sure that it's with people that, and you're in an environment. I don't think a festival's always that great, because you don't necessarily have the facilities if something does not go right.
Actually, I will say that generally at festivals there are a lot of medical staff.
Yeah.
That's when if you want something to go wrong, you want it to be around people.
But you don't want to be scared to go to those medical staff to say.
Well, I think sometimes at a certain point you don't have any choice, and your friends are going to take you there.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a reaction, it's going to be pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
Look, I'd hate to be, and I've seen those staff at work. They're just beautiful people. Anybody in the first aid fraternity,
or ambulance officers,
exactly. Anybody. I've been in that many
responders.
ambulances in my life. Yeah. So I love those guys. But as you say, it's about educate, facilitate. You talk about alcohol. I mean, when you think about it, alcohol's worse than a lot of other stuff.
Oh,
when you stack it all
I
up.
actually think at one point in my career I was probably a functioning alcoholic without even knowing it.
Well, as long as you had the functioning part, that's fine.
But a lot of people
that's fine. Oh, for sure. For sure. It's not a problem until it's a problem.
And it's normally not you that picks it up. It's others.
Well, there's always a catalyst.
Yeah.
There's always an event. There's always something that either you yourself in your own consciousness goes, okay, we've got a fucking problem, or a wife or a husband says, hey, there's something going wrong here. We need to address it, not fix it. We need to address it. We need to discuss what the issue is, because the one thing that you don't want to do with somebody that's in a situation like that is you don't want to accuse them of something. You don't want them to feel like they're doing something wrong or bad. You know, it's about nurturing them into a place where they can understand that there is something that needs to evolve or change.
Yeah.
To technically fix a problem.
Yeah. And why are they drinking so much in the first place?
Well,
Because sometimes it probably happens over time, a long period of time, and it might be the people you're around as well. It might be a situation that you're trying to avoid. So there's many factors that come into play, but it's really, you can't help someone if they're not going to acknowledge it in the first place.
no, well, that's the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, once again, everything happens for a reason, and people get to the point where they just forget what the reason was, and it just becomes part of their life.
Yeah,
you know?
habit.
But once again, yeah, exactly. Once again, there's plenty of people out there that can help you. There's plenty of services available. Thanks for listening to our latest episode of Lurid State of Mind. Don't forget to head to our website, luridstateofmind.com, for all our previous podcast episodes and, of course, our famous merch. We've just released a new range of merchandise, and there's something for everyone. So head to luridstateofmind.com and buy something today.
And I should say that if you're not getting the answer from a medical profession, and especially throughout my 9 years of illness, GP is a general practitioner. So if you're not getting better, move on. Ask for that referral. Ask for another opinion.
Yeah. Well, in defence of GPs, they do a lot. They're at ground zero.
They've got to do everything.
Yeah, they're at ground zero.
But it's just acknowledging that there are more qualified people to be able to potentially help you. I wouldn't be on dexamphetamine if I didn't have a globally renowned psychiatrist that I happen to accept me as a case, but also to talk to her international friends about my case. And that's how we got to that drug.
Oh, it's fascinating that that's working for you. And as I said, we were talking about drugs in the process of how they're implemented, and now drugs that have been found to do other things, even though that's not what they were designed for, which is in your case with Dex, which is fantastic. But as I said, once again, GPs they're at fucking ground zero. They do a lot of legwork. But once again, I think it's about asking the question. I mean, ask questions for the love of God. If you're unsure about something or you want to know something, just ask the question. It's not gonna harm you. GPs are humans just like you.
Yeah.
They deal with the same shit you deal with. You know, so even though you can put them on a pedestal, they still are a human, and they still are there to do a job and to serve you. You know, so ask the question, as you say, get the referrals.
And be curious and just ask the question, and even ask the different question. You might be asking the wrong question.
Well, exactly. Yep. Just open it up. Talk to people. There's a lot of services out there, and nobody should go. Nobody should be wanting help and not getting it in this day and age. I think that the services that are available to us as Australians,
It's amazing.
I mean, the Medicare system isn't perfect. The NDIS isn't perfect. But the awareness about mental health these days is such that you should never feel like you're out in the cold.
Yeah.
At all. So, yeah, once again, just ask, talk. And this is what we're doing today. This is exactly what we're doing, and this is what we want our listeners and our viewers to know: is have the conversations. just like we're doing here today. Ask the questions, get the answers, or get a path to an answer. So, as I said, once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. And we might get you back because you got a lot more information in that skull of yours about a lot of things. We didn't even talk about a lot of the drugs that I wanted to talk about.
No, sorry about that.
That's all right. As I said, you can come. You're more than welcome to come back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That's a wrap, Matty.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in and for your time. You know the vibe, I'm steady living until I die. It's a lewd state of mind and we showed you that. Keep it authentic and real, I hope you coming back. Hey, make sure that you subscribe, cause we got it popping all the time and it's going down. If you wanna elevate, wanna live a better life, keep it locked here. You know it's a lewd state of mind, let's go.